It's exciting. Okay, I think we are live now. So, hey everybody! If you guys are watching now, we're trying to start on time. But for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. My name is Angel Arts. If this is your first time coming to my channel, I'm a huge Dragon Age Inquisition fan, and today we are doing a live podcast, live stream, talking about a game that we're absolutely excited to play. So those of you who want to interact with us directly and want to ask us questions and bring up topics that you want us to look into, I believe what you can do is make sure that you click on the Hangouts on Air link. I think there's like a little link that appears at the bottom of this video that you can click on, and then when you go onto that link, it takes you over to the Google Hangouts on Air, and on the left-hand side, there's like a Q&A button that you can press, and you can type in your questions or your topics that you want us to talk about, or just comments in general. And the nice thing about that is if you can like each other's questions, you can like each other's comments, and the ones that are the most liked or the ones that are most thumbs up end up getting filtering to the top. So anyone who's on, if you guys can at least test it, you can go ahead and type in just to say hello. It'd be great for you guys to say hi. I see right now we have 15 viewers, so that's great. You can definitely continue to comment on the video itself if you're on YouTube, but we're just not going to be able to see it really easily while we're live. So just keep that in mind. To start things off, before we begin, I wanted to have everybody around the room introduce themselves. These people are folks that have submitted their audition, I guess, towards joining me on this live stream. They're other fellow viewers, and I'm really excited to hang out with them and to get to know them a little bit better as we go through this exercise. So let's go around, and each person can give us their name. They can give us where they're originally from, and then give us a brief explanation, just a few sentences, why you love the series. So why don't we start with Efren?
Hey, I am Efren. I am from Spain, and what I liked about Dragon Age was, first of all, what my attention was the customization, all the possibilities you could choose from and that stuff. And from there, I just got hooked with the story and the characters, and since then, I am a big fan.
All right. Moving on. Next, how about you, Lies? Why don't you go next?
Oh, hi, I'm Lies. You can call me Lies. My favorite thing about Dragon Age is the ability to choose who you want to be, male, female, how you look, and the characters and the story is just marvelous. It's something that you just can't stop thinking about.
Okay. Next up, Mecha.
Drum your luck, everybody. I am Mecha, the Devil's Machine, yeah, hailing from the UK. Yes, I'm from the small islands. I've come to Dragon Age a year later than everyone else, especially with Final Fantasy XIII, which didn't last me 5 minutes. But I love the darkness and the gore of it. But then again, I was consumed by darkness when I was in my teens. Yes.
Thank you for joining us, Mecha. Also, for those of you who might be familiar with her voice, Mecha is also a voice actor. In addition, most prominently, the voice of Gygas in my VA Let's Play Earthbound. So it's good to have her here. Last but not least, Super Spells.
Hi, my name is Caleb. I'm originally from Kentucky. Yes, we do have fried chicken there, to get the obvious joke out of the way. I now live in Maryland, and I was brought to Dragon Age mostly from the character creation. I'm a sucker for character gen and customization, all the different stuff that you could do. and just to see how much I could get away with on my first character. My first character was a rogue that was really, really persuasive, probably more than he ever should have gotten away with.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining. Hi, Jonathan Sawyer, also known as Shen. We've got somebody up on the questions list, so it's good. Okay, so I guess while we let people trickle in and start deciding what questions or topics, I'm going to throw it out to you guys, those of you who are on the panel. Is there a specific topic or a specific question or a specific character that you're just burning to discuss, that you want to get the ball rolling with? Anyone?
I'm curious as to what was the fate of Anders after the second game.
Disconnected.
Like, did he go back to the way he was in Awakening, or did he continue like he was after Dragon Age 2? What happened to him?
And this is assuming he's still alive, correct?
Yeah, this is assuming that he's still alive. Like, what
Okay.
became of him? What did he accomplish?
All right. Thoughts, anybody, about Anders?
Well, mine, it's certainly still running around with my hawk.
Okay.
Probably happily ever after, I hope.
Did your hawk romance him?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Who wouldn't romance Anders? I mean,
So he's still running around with your hawk. So are you thinking, Efran, that perhaps whoever hawk romances, whether it's Anders or whatever, may end up appearing in the game when hawk appears in the game?
well, I hadn't thought about it. Probably if it's Anders, it will, because it's a major point in what's happening in the world. But yeah, they've done it in the past with the origins from 2, so I think it's possible.
Here's something to ponder. We did see Hawk in the Dragon Age Inquisition trailer. If you romanced Anders with your Hawk, where is he whenever Hawk shows up in the trailer?
No idea, but we'll find out.
That's a good question.
Maybe
Well,
he's
and I
with
think
Hawk.
I was saying, like, it might be possible that Anders might be with Hawk. He might not be there with him at that moment.
Yeah.
But it might, whoever Hawk, it would be neat, I think, if whoever Hawk happened to romance, since as a player you devoted that time to romance that character, that as a player you would be rewarded to see that romance appear again. But I don't know. Does anybody else have any other thoughts about that? I guess my question to follow up for Efren is, what was your character's reasoning behind keeping Anders alive? Like, was it merely just because he was a romance with your hawk? Did your hawk necessarily condone what Anders did? Did he agree with what Anders did? Like, what was the reasoning?
No, he
through it?
totally disagreed with what he did. I always try to be kind of pacifist, trying to keep everyone alive. But at that point, I was like, I'm not going to kill him. I've been in a romance with him for like 3 years, I guess, the game takes.
That's true.
And what I thought, and it wasn't an option in the dialogue, I wanted to tell him, what have you done to us? I mean, in Spanish would be different, but I mean, like, they were already bonded together, and what he did, it's like if I did it too. Like,
Yeah.
I guess my hawk took a bit of responsibility for the thing that happened.
Mecha and spells, did you guys spare Anders or did you kill Anders?
I spared Anders, though the first time I played Dragon Age 2, I wasn't as big of a role player back then as I am now, because I played it like 3 years ago. I only spared Anders because I needed a healer.
I think that was my reasoning as well. Sadly.
Like,
Yeah, that's a little disappointing. Go ahead, keep going.
Because, like, it was either, and even if you do spare Anders, Fenris just gets absolutely annoyed with you. But
Yeah.
there was no other healer, and if you weren't a mage yourself, you couldn't be a healer. And you know, stuff that happens to your sister if you're not a mage, so she's not with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's your only real option, unless you want to completely break Meryl as far as her talents go.
That's a very good point, because I've seen a lot of LPers who have said the exact same thing, that I'm not really a big Anders fan, they would say, but I need a healer. And even back in Origins, there were people who were not big Wynn fans, for example. I think Wynn was, personality-wise, tended to get along with people a little bit better than Anders, at least in Dragon Age 2. But I think that at least in Origins, you had the option of making Morrigan delve into the healer role if you didn't play a mage. But I think in Dragon Age 2, because Meryl wasn't able to do that, it seemed very limiting for a player as far as healing roles go. Like, do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I think they really limited your party loadout as a whole in Dragon Age 2. And I guess it kind of makes sense because instead of an entire nation for you to cross, you're just confined to a city. But still, like, you only had 2 of every class, and I think even... Yeah, 2 of every class, bare minimum. And in the Dragon Age Origins, you had at least 3. Except for mages. But I really liked Wynn. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but I liked Wynn.
I think more people tended to favor Wynn over favoring Anders in Dragon Age 2, at least. Since we're on the topic of healing, let's tie this into the Dragon Age Inquisition system of healing, wherein there really isn't... The healing system in Dragon Age Inquisition is a lot different because there isn't really traditional healing. I think they have potions, but beyond that, I think your options of healing are very limited.
Yeah, I think they removed that purple potion that was in Dragon Age 2. I think they completely removed that because it was too OP. So basically, you're still allowed to make your own potions. You just can't make that one.
Is that the one that auto revives you? Is that
I think that's the one. Yeah.
Or is
that was a bit too OP.
But I think there's probably will still be a potion to revive someone, just not to auto revive them. Correct? I believe.
I don't really know. I mean, I'm normally one who normally scrounges around for information, but it seems like nothing is coming up. So I think they've debunked that potion completely, probably.
Gotcha.
So is it like a Legend of Zelda fairy in a bottle, pretty much? Is that how that worked?
Yeah,
I don't really know.
it essentially was. As soon as you died, then you automatically went from 0 to a small portion of your health.
Yeah,
so you came back again.
So, like, because I never went into almost any of the crafting in Dragon Age Origins or 2 because I was just playing the game because I wanted to play the story, and my characters were atrocious and my RP skills were subpar at the time, so I didn't delve into much of anything other than, let's see if I can spin my blades even faster.
Yeah. I kind of completely forgot about the potion system during my first Let's Play as well, and didn't pay much attention to it because I completely forgot there was a potion that could revive you. And that, once I remembered that helped a little bit, combat a little bit.
Yeah.
But without healing, are any of you guys concerned about the challenge of the game without healing? Because healing seems like a very typical safety net for players. What are your thoughts on
the Holy Trinity? I think that they're going for a more tactical layout rather than, they're wanting you to, I think, have all of your party members involved in the fight instead of just having one person standing there and all of their tactic slots are spent on healing other people. Because that's how I built Wynn in the first game.
So, do you know if there is going to be a healing spell, or it is confirmed that it's not going to be?
I don't think it is I haven't seen one in the mage trees whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Not that I am aware of. No. I'm sure it'll still work. I'm sure that
I think it's just potions now.
it's something that I think players are, might tilt their head at, but as
Healing is now the new forbidden magic.
we'll see, healing's not a new for magic. No, not only blood magic, but spirit healing as well.
Because it deals with the Fade, you can't do that ever.
Yes.
Oh,
Hey, Lies, no problem. We're just talking
I
about.
had connection.
It's quite all right. Lies, we were talking about the lack of the healing system in Dragon Age Inquisition and how there doesn't seem to be very many options of healing besides potions now. Do you have any thoughts about the healing system?
Well,
Oh, I think we lost her again.
Yeah.
No.
They might
okay.
be trying to adhere to the people that also want a bit of a tougher experience, and
Yeah.
and basically getting them out of their comfort zone, and you basically have to rely on the tactical layout and the harder difficulties, know when to use your potions, things like that, instead of just having someone in the back spamming healing spells.
Ralph Beaches just said it's confirmed that there are no healing spells, only protection spells. So we've got
Oh.
more spells that I guess avoid damage or at least mitigate damage, which I think makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start answering some people's questions. So I see a question that has a +2 on it. This is from Calendar Cray, and he asks, I'm interested to know who of you is familiar with the Baldur's Gate series, as it is the previous game created by BioWare, and if so, regarding the NPCs, which game took the cake? Have any of you guys here played Baldur's Gate?
I've played the first one, but that was like whenever I was around 10. And I briefly played the second one, so in all honesty, I didn't pay any attention to the NPCs at the time. I was just running around, ooh, you have something for me to go kill more stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. No, I didn't really pay much attention to that.
Either of you guys played Baldur's Gate? Either of the two of you?
No.
I unfortunately have not either. But I've heard...
Go ahead.
I was going to Let's Play Baldur's Gate, the Enhanced Edition, a while ago, and it's sort of gotten on the back burner. But I heard that at its time, the characters were really good for the time that it was released.
Yeah, I don't remember anything bad about the game, but I mean, like I said, I just ran around and melted stuff with burning hands because you could as a mage, you got burning hands, which is just a flamethrower, and you could spin around in circles and just kill everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just the way I played.
Ralph Beaches asks another question. Is anyone a major Archery/Rogue fan? I'm kind of disappointed with almost the total lack of information on Archery compared to all the other classes.
I think I know the reason why because of this. The reason why there is lack of information on the archery tree is because it's basically the same as before. It's just more differently constructed as normal as it would in Dragon Age 2. So technically the archery tree is probably the only one that actually stayed the same throughout the entire series. Mm-hmm. So that's why we haven't got any information about it. I had to look at Angry Joe's demo version of Dragon Age Inquisition, and it was basically the same.
Yeah, I watched that. I think I have a different theory in that they kind of want to keep some of it secretive, per se. They kind of don't want you to know about a whole lot of it, so then that way, whenever you do actually delve into it, you're pleasantly surprised. I played a rogue in every single Dragon Age game because I'm not a very strong person by nature, and I always liked the rogues that you didn't have to be strong. You could just attack people where they're naturally weaker at. So.
Archery in the Origins game was arguably left much to be desired. I think a lot of players were complaining that it could have been better, and Dragon Age 2, the developers made a significant overhaul to try to revamp how archery worked, and I think it was definitely a really good step in the right direction. Because I always prefer being a ranged type of character. I was never a big melee person, and Rogue is definitely my second favorite of all three of the classes, and I kind of, preferred being an archer versus even a dual wielding rogue. So I'm hoping that they'll at least have a few new shiny surprises for the archery class in Inquisition. Again, to just continue encouraging people to choose that branch. But of course, I also like that they allowed a few unique archery skills with Varric, and the fact that Varric's coming back again. I'm sure there's going to be some new tricks up his sleeve as well. I'll bet just for his character specifically. So.
And there's always the chance that some of the new rogue archery skills could be tied in with how the stealth mechanic has been changed slightly. Based on Angry Joe's video, there might be some shots that you can only do from stealth, or it'll do special things.
Were you about to say something, Efran?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I've never played an archer in Dragon Age, so I don't really know much about this, but
why is that? Is it because you didn't think it was a very strong weapon set? Or?
Usually I just do my first playthrough with a mage, and then I go to the total opposite and do a warrior, and after that I just go around with what I have, and rogues are kind of left out for me.
Okay. Hi, Mistiani. Mistiani just dropped a comment to talk about the Baldur's Gate comment. The characters in Baldur's Gate were generally really good for its time, and some really do hold up still, but you can really see that BioWare has gotten better at characters over time. So that's the best way we can answer it, since apparently we're not all experts at Baldur's Gate on this podcast. Unfortunately. So let me throw out another question for you guys. Have you thought about which class and race you guys are going to pick as your first Inquisitor? And
you already know.
And if so, well, I know, but the rest of the group doesn't know. Why don't you guys share what race and class you guys are planning on choosing and why? Whoever wants to go first. Why don't you go first, Efren?
Okay, I chose mine. I think back when they released a trailer like a long time ago, I said I want to be an elf this time around, because
an elf. Okay.
An elf, because in Origins and in 2 I was a human mage, and I still want to be a mage, but changing up a bit. So elven mage.
Elven mage. Okay.
Yeah.
How about the other two?
Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to?
No, just go ahead. I'm sorting out with lies.
Okay. I'm either going to be an elf or a Kunari. Probably a Kunari, female rogue.
Okay.
Reason A, Lealden. If that's not a good enough reason for you, if you don't get it. The reason B would be because I always really liked elves, but my favorite elf race from D&D are Drow. But Kunari is the closest I have, so I also really like the Kunari. I would like to get more into that.
For those of you who aren't sure what Super Spells was talking about when he mentioned Lealden, Lealden is actually one of the player characters in my Dragon Age RPG tabletop campaign, who is a pretty awesome Kunari rogue. So yeah, Mecha, why don't you share with us who you think you're gonna, what you think you're gonna be rolling for your?
I'm gonna be a Kunari male mage, in other words, some form of a Cerebus. But of course, since apparently that we are part of the Tava shop and not part of the actual Qun, it's basically just gonna throw that out the water. But he's gonna be a complete and utter ass. but still help.
It sounds fantastic.
I'm looking forward to that. For me personally, my knee-jerk reaction is I could be Canary, but I feel like everybody and their mother is going to be a Canary because it's the new shiny thing. It's the new flavor of the month. But that being said, I feel like there would be so much more story. There's just a lot of stuff about Canary that I thought would be a great story to tell, and a great for my Let's Play would be give me a lot of material for me to discuss and to analyze, especially if I was a mage, a Cerebos Canary. Now, I don't think he ever became a Cerebos, because I think when you roll an Inquisitor Canary, he was never really technically part of the Qun.
No.
But I think it would still be really interesting to be able to look into my character as far as what are his thoughts of how some of his other brothers, his other Canary mage brothers, are treated and how they are looked at. And I was even further going to consider doing a female Canary instead of a mage Canary, because after talking with Sten in Dragon Age Origins, there's a really interesting gender role thing going on within the Canary, and I don't know if what Sten said is common throughout the way all male Canary feel, or the way all Canary feel, or if that was more of what his group of people happen to believe. So I'm going back and forth with what I'm going to ultimately pick.
And then you also have your plight with being a female elven mage for a particular Templar.
Yeah. I was also... Yes, I was very tempted to roll a female mage for my Let's Play with Cullen, but a lot of people really want me to do gay Let's Plays, and that would kind of defeat the purpose of that. So I have no issue. I have no issue playing off camera a female Inquisitor specifically for Cullen. So
I'm probably going to end up doing the same thing because I'm interested to peek more into his character.
Since we started talking about romances, which character are you guys thinking about romancing with your Inquisitor? If you're going to romance anyone.
Well, I thought a lot about it, and as I commented in one of your videos, I probably just roleplay and let everyone try to
woo you?
Romance me, yeah, to woo me, and see who does it better.
Okay. The other two, have you guys thought about it?
Either, I don't remember if Blackwall is race gated or not, but either Blackwall or I'm gonna go with Tequila and Skittles. I'm either gonna go with one of those two because I'm interested to see what Blackwall has to say about the Grey Wardens. Because while your character was a Warden in Origins, there's a limited amount of information you get about the Order because the Order isn't predominantly in Ferelden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. When you were talking about Tequila and Skittles, you were referring to Sarah, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
Sarah is Tequila and Skittles. How about you, Mecha?
None.
You're gonna remain single, and why do you wish to remain single, Mecha?
Because, number one, it'll probably be a hate romance between my character and Cassandra, because they'll just probably kill each other at one point. He has no interest in any other characters, so he's pretty much going to be a knob.
Okay.
No.
So, for a gay Let's Play, I have two options. I either have Dorian or I have the Iron Bull, both of whom, depending on the day, I'm still swinging back and forth.
But then again, you'll probably get the achievement riding the Iron Bull.
Yeah, that's also very. I mean, the Iron Bull has a lot of things going for him besides the fact that he's. Not only do I get to ride the bull, but he's voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr., whom I was a big fan of in the 90s especially, and I just loved his James Vega. I just loved him as James Vega, but I wasn't able to actually romance James Vega, so now that he's the Iron Bull, this is my chance to actually romance Freddie Prinze Jr., since I wasn't able to do that with James Vega. However, then you've got Dorian, who is this really suave. He strikes me as sort of like an Alistair-like mage, but not a little bit more confident than that, a little bit less shy than Alistair. And those are the type of people that the personality-wise, I tend to go for. From a pure physical standpoint, and I'm putting a disclaimer because a lot of people are going to start throwing things at me. I'm not a fan of the mustache. I'm sorry. I'm not a facial for me.
Well, it is November, so.
I know, but from a purely physical attraction standpoint, mustaches don't do it for me. Like mustaches and beards. Peach fuzz is fine, but I'm not attracted to mustaches. So I'm sure that I can look past that if Dorian completely sweeps me off my feet personality-wise. There's always going to be things I can look past, but just again from a physical standpoint, it's the mustache isn't helping him at the moment. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, but I do think a male Kunari romance with the Iron Bull would be hilarious. It would be the funniest thing in the world.
Challenge accepted.
I think Elvin with romance with the Kunari Bull, Iron Bull would be interesting to see.
Yeah, that would be interesting too.
Dwarf, I think, would be less extreme because dwarfs are naturally stockier. They might be shorter, but I don't know, proportionally. Whatever. So
more likely the Iron Bull will probably kill them.
You'll just need an iron pry bar. Get ready
the jaws of life.
Get ready for some nuzzling. All right, Calendar Cray asks another question. Do you see your hero as the fixer of the world's little and big problems, or would you like to have a companion in the group who shines over you during the game? As a follower of the BG, there it is against story to have a group member being tougher than the HC.
I'm assuming by BG he means background character, and then HC would be like hero character.
Yeah, I think that's what he means. What's Calendar Cray means.
My hero is probably just, since she will likely be a Kunari rogue, she's just gonna do what she believes is correct for the certain situation. Whether or not, it depends on what problems are presented to her at the time, because she might be more aggressive, so she could either give money to the orphan or go punch the bartender in the face that's been stealing the money that other people have been giving him.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the problems, really. She might end up causing more problems for other people than she will fix them. You never know.
Right.
It honestly depends on what's thrown at me.
I think it's really interesting because they will have to do it carefully to have another character take power from the main one.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, if that other character is written well and knows what he's doing or she's doing, I'm not a power hoarder.
Okay. Mecha?
I really don't know what my Inquisitor would do. It depends on the decisions in the situation. All I know is the first thing that I'm going to do as an Inquisitor is basically burn the Red Templars to the ground.
Yes. That's hilarious. I honestly, I don't think the Templars as a whole are bad. I think they overstepped their boundaries and the powers given to them by the Chantry a lot more than they should. But then you also have to look at the lyrium addiction.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like, well, the Class A drugs that we have today, really.
Yeah. So I think there's good ways to do it, but you never know.
We'll get back to the lyrium issue because I think that's a good topic to talk about. To answer Kalendor's Cray's question myself, in real life, I tend to prefer being in a position where I'm the guy behind the scenes. I don't necessarily need to be the one that is the face or the one that gets all the credit necessarily. I kind of prefer to support from behind the scenes and just elevate or support whoever is actually in a higher position than I am. That's just the way that I work. And when I roll characters, I tend to roll support characters, not necessarily the ones with the huge giant DPS, but the ones that heal, the ones who buff, the ones who debuff. And I have no issue sharing in the glory. I mean, I think ideally it'd be great for not the Inquisitor to be in relatively the same level as all of the other PCs as far as power goes, and as far as glory goes, because I'm more of a kind of character, and I'm probably going to make my Inquisitor like this, who says, you know, I'm not the only, you know, I can't do this without everybody else. I need the support of my crew, just like in Mass Effect. As awesome as Shepard is, he can't do everything himself. He needed his crew to support him from behind, and just the idea of camaraderie and hopefully a sense of family as much as they might be able to bicker or argue or dysfunctional as it can be, that's something that I would like to see in the game.
All for one and one for all, basically.
Right. And just to follow up with, Kylander Cray had a follow-up question, and following that, how is it with an NPC who will ultimately work against you after he left the group based on the choices that the hero character in-game and through dialogues is making, and not just in the final battle like in Dragon Age 2, or a deadly situation like Curing the Ashes. So, the idea of... Go ahead.
Curing the Ashes, don't you mean basically tainting it? Not curing?
Tainting it. Right,
Yeah.
tainting it. So essentially...
one pronoun.
Yeah, so if an NPC character decides to leave the Inquisition, the idea that they will you'll see them again ultimately working against you, and this would happen not necessarily at the end of the game, but maybe somewhere in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
I guess that would also depend on how persuasive your character is in saying what I did wasn't that bad to keep them there. But if someone was ultimately working against the Inquisition, I think if my character had the choice, they'd much rather probably kick the crap out of them because they'd be forced to, but leave them alive. They wouldn't just kill them because all for the Inquisition. Because that seems a little too cold-hearted.
Efren? Or Mecha?
Go ahead, Zevon. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, again, for me it depends on how the situation was and how it's now, or how it develops in the moment. Probably if it's a really hard betrayal or whatever, I wouldn't mind killing them. But yeah, I think it could be really interesting to see like the Iron Bull or someone like that to turn against you and see what you can do about it.
There's a lot of things that is being insinuated by specific characters that suggest that they definitely have some hidden agenda. And I'm looking at Vivienne.
Yeah.
Vivienne, there's something going on with that woman, and I think she's an awesome character. I was watching her trailer the other day, and it's very well done. And the voice actor for Vivienne is just amazing. Love her to death. And I wonder, I mentioned this in another video, I'm wondering if she'll necessarily pull a Morrigan on us near the end of this game. And not necessarily turn against us, but maybe give us some sort of ultimatum because of whatever her hidden agenda happens to be. And it might not just be Vivienne, there could be hidden agendas from other characters as well. And I think that it would be really cool if there was a feature in the story where a character could leave and then you saw them again, and then, oh gosh, drama / tension, and maybe you have a chance to win them back, or maybe you don't, and if you do or don't, that determines that specific NPC's fate. I think that would definitely be something that BioWare could explore further as far as story goes. So.
But I swear, if anyone nukes another building, there will be no mercy from my rogue.
That's a fair enough statement to make.
I've just set everything on fire.
Let's go back to the topic that we had tabled just a second ago about Red Lyrium and Red Templars. I actually don't know that much about. I haven't actually read up very much on the Red Templar lore. So, any of you guys know that could share that before we start discussing it more thoroughly? What the Red Templar lore is?
I think the Red Templars kind of follow the way that Meredith went, but I think they kind of nearly ascend just a bit more than she does. I think they have slightly more control over the Red Lyrium.
Mm-hmm.
They are still paranoid, they're still freaking crazy, and I think they should be burnt to the freaking ground.
Yeah, the thing that they might not be as crazy as they also might have a smaller amount of Red Lyrium, because from what I understand, it's somewhat rare to find.
Mm-hmm.
But the regular Templars, according to Alistair, or at least a rumor, and I think another character mentions that the regular Templars are addicted to regular lyrium by the Chantry. Because he has a dialogue where he says, apparently lyrium's supposed to make our abilities more effective. Whether or not that's true, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's addictive. But as far as Red Templars go, I honestly have no idea. It depends. Do they have an actual stronghold anywhere, or are they strung about?
They do have a stronghold, yes. I think it's somewhere near the coastline, if I can recall. I know it's somewhere near a coastline, and it's right near where a Tig is. Because I think that's where mostly the Tigs normally are, because caves and all that. So, I do think that there is a Red Templar base. I think there's probably going to be about 3 or 4 little ones, little camps and all that. And then, of course, the big main base, which is probably about 5 levels down and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's the big main cult leader, and then he becomes corrupted, and then he turns into one of the demons, and then we have to fight the prick.
Speaking of Red Lyrium, in Dragon Age 2, Act 3, you are given the option to allow Varric to keep a piece of the Red Lyrium idol, or to talk him out of it. What do you guys think or predict the consequences of those actions would be? Because I, in my games, purposely let Varric talk Hawk into keeping the Red Lyrium.
I didn't let him keep it.
Okay.
So, for me, it's not going to make any difference, but I think it could change quite a bit. Probably.
Okay.
Well, my guess is that at the beginning of Inquisition, it won't be any major changes, but maybe as the game goes on, it could change Varric.
To the point that you think it would be easier for Varric to butt heads and leave the Inquisition?
Maybe. That could be interesting too. Just to have Varric against you after 2 games of being on your side.
Yeah. Thoughts, Mecha?
Well, I managed to convince him not to keep it, so I'm probably one of the ones I managed to luckily managed to convince him. But of course, every action has a consequence. I'm just going to quote G-Man here: "Prepare for unforeseen consequences." So, with Varric, if he kept the Lyrium, it will probably try to enhance Bianca. To make her more powerful against demons, and of course it will slightly corrupt him as well, but he will try and hide it, as suave as he is. However, since I managed to convince him out of it, it will probably be in his subconscious as a regret, taunting him every night and day. And once we actually see the red lyrium, of course, in the first 30 minutes, and of course he will have some slight insights, but try and hide his inner needs, try and hide his id. I'm just using psychological stuff here.
Gotcha. Any thoughts, Spells?
If I recall correctly, I didn't let him take it. But if he did take it, Varric's not dumb. If anything, he isn't dumb. He saw what the red lyrium did to his brother. So even if he did take it, there's always the possibility that he experimented on it to try and figure out how to diffuse some of its effects, so that the same tragedy wouldn't happen again. And if you talked him out of keeping it, he is a rogue. There's every chance he could have stolen it when you weren't looking.
I question how knowledgeable Varric would be as far as experimenting on red lyrium. Like, I know that dwarves are not particularly magic savvy.
Yet.
Well, we're gonna get into that topic in a moment, but.
But he also could have, went and found people that would know more.
That's true. He does have his connections. I love Varric, so it would definitely break my heart if watching him deteriorate or go crazy over this. But I think it would also be very good drama in my Let's Play if it happened.
Or in worst case scenario, turn into a giant red lyrium statue.
Yeah, sort of like what happened to Meredith, is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that would break my heart because of the choice that I made.
It would break all the fandom's heart.
I know. Oh.
Some more than others.
Yeah, what have I done? The angst. I did it to myself.
Someone do this on fanfiction right now, please.
So, Magoyan King Jimeno asks another question. What do you think of an Inquisitor who breaks his race, like a Qunari or elf, which believes in the Maker? So something that's not stereotypical of that race.
In that particular manner, I think it's more of you're brought up. If they're brought up out of their own culture, they could inevitably choose to believe in that. But if, like, an elf burnt down the forest, I would really question, because if he turns against his own nature, what else would he do? Sort of that type of thing. But
unless he's a city elf.
Unless he's a city elf and then he starts burning down villages, in which case, I don't know. But, it really depends. But I don't think the Inquisitor can be a city elf.
Yeah,
so, like, if
Qunari, sorry for interrupting Sip Spells. Carry on.
It's fine. I was just basically saying, like, if a Dalish elf went around killing Hala or burning down forests, I would have to question if they had gotten possessed by red lyrium or something.
And with the Qunari, the Qunari that you control do not believe in the Qun. So I think they actually believe in the Maker, so they are absolutely fine. So they can't break their race unless somehow they convert back to the Qun, which probably is not likely.
Efran?
I think it's really an interesting choice to roleplay as a different Inquisitor, but I don't think the game will react properly. I mean, it would be cool in a role-playing game where it's more open, but I mean, by the end of the day, I think you will have like 2 or 3 options that really allow you to play as a breaking character, but it's interesting, limited, I guess.
My Grey Warden, for those of you who watched my Let's Play, was an elf who believed in the Maker. He was a follower of the Maker, and typically when I play tabletop games like D&D, my favorite characters to make as a PC are the characters that break the norm. For example, I loved rolling my orc bard because orc bards are kind of unusual because their stats don't really, I definitely am not min-maxing when I'm rolling a orc bard, but he was so much fun to role play. So much more interesting, in my opinion, than like a barbarian orc or a fighter orc.
We
Or
have an
orc
orc
bard.
cleric. We have an orc
I can
cleric
see an
in our
orc cleric.
campaign.
I can see an orc cleric. But things like that, or at least in 3rd edition, a dwarven ninja. Dwarves are not known to be very dexterous, so having a dwarven ninja is a little odd. But those are the characters that I tend to. The ones that don't follow a cookie cutter are the ones that I find more fun to play with. But like Efron said, I don't know how much freedom you necessarily would have in breaking the mold too much in Inquisition. So I don't know how much that will end up getting brought up.
Yeah, because while it's an open world game and there are decisions you can make, it's still they're still trying to tell you a story. So there's going to be railroads somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, next question is sent in by Calendar Cray, and Calendar asks, which side character, Connor, Jowen, Fainriel, Karen, Dagna, and so many more, of the previous games would you like to see the most, and see how this character developed over time? That's a good question. Which side character do you want to see the most, to see how this character developed over time?
Go
ahead.
I like my first two choices would either be Connor or Dagna, because I really didn't care too much for Jowen. Like, especially if you played the mage origin, like the reason why everything went south for him was because he decided that he was in love with this Chantry lady, and like a couple weeks into the relationship or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And that's why everything went to hell, so I don't really feel sorry for Jowen. He brought that upon himself.
Well, me personally, I think Dagna, definitely. Because she's just so
She's adorable.
different, I mean, yeah, also. And it has a lot of potential, what he can do, what he can find out working with mages being a dwarf, so I would really love to see her back, and
yeah, I agree.
As much as possible.
Mecha?
It's mostly a tie. The most character I actually do want to see, who has most likely has developed over time, is Flemeth.
Fainriel.
I mean, because in my decision, my Dragon Age 2, I've sent him to Tevinter to control over his dream state.
Yeah.
And I think he might be the next Avatar.
Yeah, I had a huge soft spot. In Dragon Age Origins, I had a huge soft spot for Dagna just because her personality was just infectiously awesome. And just seeing the passion. Again, this is a character that kind of goes against her race, the mold of the race, because dwarves aren't meant to really be interested in magic. But Dagna is. And, I definitely was interested in finding out what happened to her after Origins. And I agree with you as well, Mecha, that Fainriel was the one that I had a huge soft spot for as well, being a dreamer, and all of that good stuff. And because those are two of my favorite side characters from the series, obviously they ended up having to appear in my tabletop RPG campaign in some form or another. I'm not going to say how, for those of you who haven't watched it yet. But then my number one, which is actually what Ralph Beaches just yelled out, my number one character I wanted to see, again, is Sandal.
Voiced by Yuri Lowenthal.
There's a lot about Sandal, a lot of unanswered questions about Sandal, and so much mystery about this dwarf. Is Sandal people are thinking, is Sandal like the first dwarf, or at least known dwarf that can actually cast magic? Is Sandal some manifestation of the Maker himself? Is Sandal... Because if you remember from Dragon Age 2, Sandal like goes into this trance, and he gives off this prophecy about how the skies will tear open or something, and darkness will like flow through the land, which is, surprise, surprise, the main plot of Inquisition. It's what Sandal predicted in Dragon Age 2. So I would be very shocked if Sandal did not at least appear and maybe played a key role in Dragon Age Inquisition at some point.
Because if I can remember from... I can't remember his name. It is in my head. I see him in my head, but I can't remember his name. Sandal's adopted dad. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Bodan.
Yeah, Bodan. There we go. Oh, I knew I had it. Yeah, because they were going to go on their trip to Orlais just before the third act.
Mm-hmm.
So they are.
Oh, that's true.
more
Orlais. That's true.
So Sandal does play a side plot role for the Empress Celine.
Do you guys have any thoughts or predictions about Sandal? Like, what do you think's going on with that dwarf? What have you thought has been going on with that dwarf? Because he's been doing weird stuff since Origins.
I don't really think he's a mage, per se, because the dwarf race as a whole are cut off from the Fade, which begs the question, do they even dream? But so are the Tranquil. The Tranquil are forcibly cut off from the Fade, so that makes the Tranquil more like dwarves, and both Sandal and the Tranquil can enchant. Maybe there's something going on with the connection being cut off from the Fade in those prophecies.
Which also begs the question, is Sandal actually a dwarf? Because
that's also true.
Bodan is not...
I think it's from his lore that one of his parents is a mage, human mage, I think it was.
Yeah, because Bodan is not his biological father. Bodan found Sandal, so we don't know where Sandal came from.
And there's also the fact that one of the Tranquil from the Circle called Sandal a savant, so there might be more lore on that too.
And also, from Dragon Age 2, when Justice came out of Anders, when his friend was Tranquil, the connection was reconnected to the Fade, and we had to kill him.
Efren, your thoughts about Sandal?
I never thought about it much. I always thought he was a cute character.
Okay.
With his enchantment.
Yes.
And stuff. But yeah, I think, again, it's up to the writers to amaze us or disappoint us. And yeah, I never thought about it, especially about the genetics part. Because would a dwarf and a human have a dwarf child, or a mix, or human? Do they say it anywhere, or it's not commented?
I believe the lore says that if you end up mixing races, I think that whatever race the mom is, that's the race that the child is. It's dependent on the mother, I think.
Makes sense.
It's sort of like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
That's horrible. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be... I think it's obviously going to appear again in Inquisition. I would be disappointed if Sandal doesn't come back. But whatever happens, I have no idea.
Speaking of Bodan, since we're on the topic of Sandal, I think I mentioned this during my Let's Play. In Dragon Age 2, they were foreshadowing the fact that Bodan's time is running out. He's getting older. So I am anticipating that there's going to be a sad scene with Bodan dying, I think.
You know what would make that even worse? If Sandal doesn't understand what's going on because he's simple.
Oh.
Yeah, that would break my heart.
Like having to tell that to him, and if his dad was human,
Yeah.
Maybe, like with Sandal, maybe because his dad was human, it tried to establish contact with the Fade, but the Dwarven blood cut it off, effectively making him tranquil without the ritual?
Hmm.
There's an interesting possibility with that, because I had no idea where his parentage was, so...
I think that there would be, this might be totally random, but I think it would be really interesting to see an interaction between Sandal and Cole.
Yes.
There's a lot of mystery with Cole as well, as far as his connection to the Fade, and I would love to see the two of them in the room. First of all, see if Sandal is able to remember Cole after seeing him, because again, there's something weird about. It's like an experiment. You put two unknown, mysterious ingredients together, and you see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought I would love to see that, to see those two interact. But who knows?
I would love to see Sandal and Dagna.
I
If
would
he
like to see them too.
ends up being a major or something of the likes,
Hmm.
could be interesting.
All right, let's move on to another question. We've got a couple questions from Calendor, so I'll go ahead and see. I'll pick this one since it's talking about NPCs still. Of which of the previous NPCs would you hate to see as a Anders character change because of magic, fate, lyrium, or what else might be the shady reason? So I guess a character whose personality got revamped for X, Y, or Z reason. Which character NPC would you hate to see that to happen to?
Again, for me, Dagna. If she stops being the lovely, super hyped dwarf with magic, I'm going to be totally disappointed.
I'd be disappointed too. Mecha? Or spells?
I'm still thinking, so...
Go ahead, Mecha. Not really?
There's not really someone that comes into my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm thinking either Morrigan or Liliana, because I know Liliana has a lot of duties with her current status, but I still want to see that playful, mischievous bard, and I still need to hear some spite from Morrigan every now and then.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they just wouldn't be the same character.
Yeah, I know that when the original previews, the articles that were being given out about Inquisition a year ago, they made a mention about Morrigan's return and how her character has developed a lot since Origins, and Morrigan is a lot more human, or at least more about humanity than she was before. So I was curious to see what that means ultimately in the game. So I don't know if any of you guys are disappointed to hear that, or are you relieved to hear that?
As long as she has some spite.
As long as she has some spite, okay.
Yeah.
Mecha,
Yeah, I was actually kind of relieved that they've changed Morrigan, even though I actually loved her the way that she was. I mean, because Claudia Black was part of my childhood, because I used to watch Basket when I was a kid. Yeah, so I find it to be a good change. I don't care if anyone flips any tables. Flip off yourself.
Efren, are you...
Well, maybe she's changed because after having, if she has her son or whatever, being a mom could change her personality. But again, I never had any strong opinions about Morrigan. I thought she was an interesting character and that, but for me, I always preferred wine, so whatever happens, I will be happy.
I'm going to agree with Spells in that Liliana is probably the character I would pick, because I already saw what Liliana was like in Liliana's Song. Her personality is very different from how she is in Origins, and I definitely prefer the Origins Liliana, and I would like to see her, become more authoritative because of her position as being the left hand of the divine, but not lose that charm that I think many of us have grown to be endeared by with her character. So it would be really cool to not see that any of that go away.
Wait, can I change my answer? Because
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought it was only with the characters from the other list.
Oh, okay.
But now I would say Varric.
Varric.
Varric, yeah, because again he's being a big part of Dragon Age 2. I hope it's going to be important too in Inquisition. So he should stay stable, I mean, with his personality.
Well, I guess since I gave Varric the red lyrium, I'm screwed. I'm screwed in that. All right. Calendar had another question. Do you need a voiced hero character to connect with your hero character?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Not really. I grew up in games of text blocks, so I always gave them a voice myself. I don't need a voice actor. In some cases it's nice, in others it's not really necessary. I mean, Pokemon is a huge franchise and it's never once had a voice character, like as far as the games go.
I
So
would
don't
say
really need it.
sorry. I would say no, because it doesn't help me connect with him as much as it helps me connect with the other characters. Because it makes the conversation more fluid, more like realistic, I guess. And I think it's important because it helps a lot getting you inside the world and what is going on.
Yeah.
But not for me. It's not so important to connect with the character.
For me, and this is, I think I'm just as old school as some of the people here. I actually had less connection with my Hawks because he was voiced. And the reason why I had less connection with him is because when I started rolling my Hawk for Dragon Age Inquisition, I tend to make characters that are a lot like me, or at least a Dragon Age version of myself. And I already have in my head what I would sound like when I'm reading this text, just like I did with Origins. So when another voice started talking that wasn't what I was imagining my character, my Hawk, would say, it was jarring for me. So I think part of the reason...
I think they sorted out that dialogue system out so that we have two ways of saying
which, yes,
one meaning the other.
I think it does help a lot that they are allowing the option to choose between two voice actors. That definitely helps. And I think they're looking into, not sure if it was successful, but looking into being able to change a pitch slider. But even...
No, it didn't look like it in Angry Joe's review.
I know that they were looking into that. But even then, I think part of the reason why I liked Origins, the fact that I had a character that didn't have a voice, it didn't matter to me because all of that was internal in my head anyway, because it was coming from me personally. If it was an NPC, that's different because that person's not me. That's not, that's a completely different character, so of course they need voices. But because it's coming from me, that just naturally came into my head. Now, am I against voice-acted games moving forward? I'm not against it because I can see that's the future, and it's a lot more cinematic. And I think majority of players nowadays, I'm sort of turning into a relic now, are going to expect that out of a game. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to miss being able to insert for myself what my character actually sounds like.
It kind of breaks the role play sometimes, and honestly, I personally will never see it as a necessity. Like, if it's there, that's fine. If there's an option to turn it off, I might end up doing that, but I'll never see it as a necessity.
Okay, was somebody about to say something? Okay.
No, I was just going to say that if they keep adding options, I mean. At first we had none, then we had one, and now we have two.
Yeah.
So if it keeps growing, I think everyone could get a voice that they like, or maybe even have the option to turn it off. So
It'd be great if like we had the option of being able to speak into the microphone so that we could have our own voice and it would just record so that in future playthroughs it would keep that voice. I
I
don't know.
probably tell all my climate mates, you're all a bunch of dicks.
Or even for a step further, I actually can see video games doing this in like what 10 years, maybe less than 10 years, if you got a microphone and you can record yourself specific like syllables, like you had a list that you had to read. You just put specific
I think
syllables.
they do that with Alien Isolation.
Oh, okay.
More particularly with the aliens, so that way it can actually hear you.
Yeah, that way you can actually string together, syllables, and you'd actually be able to say everything that the game says. There's going to be limitations on tone, like how you say things as far as tone goes, but I think it would be a nice, interesting step in the right direction. This is just me like predicting what the future of gaming is going to be like in the future, but
Yeah.
okay, so let's move on. We have a question from a new person. Hi, the Jonas V. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. The Jonas V1 asks, is there going to be a scene in the new Dragon Age game with Morrigan / the Grey Warden's son, or whoever happens to have a child with Morrigan?
I think that's my topic. Because I'm the only one that probably banged Morgan twice.
Twice?
Yeah.
I did on my first playthrough. I banged her twice.
Yeah, I kept that as my actual decision, and I did go through the mirror with Morgan.
You did go through the mirror, okay.
Yeah, so I'm probably the only one who's more specialised in this topic. I think probably the Grey Warden were more likely probably be in the background taking care of the child, whilst Morrigan was probably being sneaky, cheating the Empress, blood magic, whatever.
Morrigan has the Grey Warden stuck in the kitchen where he belongs, taking
Yeah.
care of the kid.
I think there's going to be an scene with those characters, and I think it's going to be one of the most important things in a way. I mean, for linking Inquisition to Origins.
Yeah.
I think they have to. Like, they've been building up this mystery since game 1. Like, they've been building it, and like she didn't have as much time in Dragon Age 2, but Flemeth was still there. So I mean, there has to be something going on with Flemeth, Morrigan, and the child, and possibly the Warden if the Warden ended up going to the mirror.
If I can recall, Witchhunt was 1 year after the Blight, therefore technically the baby will only be 1 month old. And by the end of Dragon Age 2, it'd be roughly about 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I think they have to release something about this mystery that they've been constructing.
I agree. I think that that players would rage if the story made it a point to actually have Morrigan reappear and not address the Godchild if you had the Godchild with Morrigan. Like, players would be very upset. Because they'd be like, why did you bring Morrigan up in the first place? Because we're going to want to get answers from her, especially with the way that the witch hunt ended. Because we didn't really get much of an answer, hardly at all.
No.
I would be pissed off if she comes up and like, no, it disappeared, it just popped
It
and
just disappeared.
I lost it in the fade somewhere. I'll go find it eventually.
I'm hoping that whatever content the game would offer, if you did have the Godchild with Morrigan, I'm hoping that there still will be an equal amount of content if you didn't have the Godchild with Morrigan. I'm hoping that they'll do that, as opposed to, yeah.
yeah, that's a problem because actually, if you did, you could get a complete game change of the whole world if there's a Godchild running around. But if you didn't, it misses a lot. So it would have to be like a side quest or something, I guess.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And there would have to be another side quest to replace it if that side quest. I mean, because similar to Nathaniel, if Nathaniel was alive in Dragon Age 2, you get one side quest. If he wasn't alive, then you get that other side quest with the dwarven brothers in the Dark Deep Roads.
Yeah.
So. Okay, next question. This one is from Magoyan King Jimeno again. He asks, come on, I want opinions about Cole and how he fits in the Inquisition, and to add a little bit of salsa to the mix, would you have a romance with him if you could? Now, we have to be careful with this because a bunch of people in this panel haven't read Asunder yet. So in order for us to not spoil anything, we made an agreement that we're not going to talk about Asunder. So it's kind of difficult.
I heard that from somewhere Cole was a bit of a brat in Asunder, so I think he's kind of matured slightly a bit in Inquisition. That's what I've heard.
Efren and Spells, I believe you guys haven't read Asunder either, so do you guys know anything about Cole? I don't know how much you've researched on Cole.
Yeah, I've looked up some stuff about Cole. More specifically about of his predicament and how he fits in with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because how could I not? He was on the character stuff, and in your video. So, my opinion about Cole is that there's gonna be some weird connection that fits him in with everything else. It's gonna come in completely from left field. Whether or not I would have a romance with him, my first Inquisitor anyway, my female Kunari, she wouldn't be interested in him particularly. It's just with her personality that I'm gonna be thinking of. She's not gonna be interested in him.
Okay.
Yeah, I have read and heard about Cole. So, can we talk about him or not? Because there are some important things that we are supposed to not say.
I think that anything that is on the official Dragon Age Inquisition webpage, because they have a lot of information on Cole that they do reveal in the webpage, you can talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know what's in the official webpage, but
okay.
Answering the second part, I don't think my Inquisitor would be interested in Cole from what I know about him. Maybe he turns out to be different, but I don't know.
My knee-jerk reaction is me as the player. I actually would be interested in romancing Cole, just because, and this is because of my knowledge of his character in Asunder. I really liked his character a lot in Asunder. I don't think that my Kunari Inquisitor will be interested in him in that way, but I can see myself rolling another Inquisitor that would. I think the main reason why why the writers have said that you can't romance him is because he has a childlike personality, a childlike mentality. But to be fair, Alistair's romance was kind of childlike too, in the sense that he was really shy and it was kind of awkward. And
have you ever licked a lamppost in winter?
I mean, Alistair is very childlike as well, and that's what made him endearing to at least me, and to I think a lot of other players. What made him endearing. So I don't think, because I think that Cole, age-wise, is of age. I think he's fine, but his mentality is the only thing that's keeping him, I guess, from the writers thinking he would be a possible romance. But I'm gonna have to disagree with that. So
I do think that that my Inquisitor is gonna treat him like a little brother, though. It's just like pat him on the head and be like, "Okay, Cole, go over there and stab those things."
I am foreseeing, I'm anticipating that my Inquisitor will see Cole as like his little brother as well, and be very protective of him, especially because of the situation that I'm sure the Inquisitor is going to learn about with him. So, Okay. Any other thoughts about Cole? Because unfortunately we can't really talk too much about him in detail. But I talk about him a lot in my analysis of him. If any of you guys really want to get a little bit deeper into him as far as a Sunder novel is concerned.
Yeah, I've watched most of the character analysis videos. That's where most of my information is coming from.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, same here.
Calendar asked this question a while ago. Sort of ties into the previous question that we had is, which dialogue system was your favorite? The Dragon Age Origins system or the Dragon Age 2 dialogue system?
I'd have to say Dragon Age Origins for no other fact than sometimes whenever you've picked an option in Dragon Age 2, it says something completely different than what you picked.
Yeah, I have to agree on that one. Dragon Age Origins was a much more better choice, whereas apparently one of the decisions mostly kind of basically dicked you over for no apparent reason.
Yeah, there was a scene. I think you were in the Vale, in the Fate with Varric, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an option that in the wheel said, "Stay back, Varric," and if you said that, it said like, "Don't get involved, you stupid dwarf," or something like that. It was like, "No, don't say that." Yeah, that pissed me off a lot. So
yeah,
2 had some problems.
Yeah.
Again, the voice added a lot, but I think Origins was more true to what you picked.
Yeah, the programmers or BioWare said that the number of options, I think a lot of people's complaints were there aren't enough options in the Dragon Age 2 version of the dialogue system versus the Dragon Age Origin systems. And the BioWare response to that was, well, no, you get the exact same number of options. It's just, yes, you have on the right side of the wheel, you have, the sarcastic option, the diplomatic option, the whatever, the the ruthless action. But then all of the other dialogue choices are covered in the investigate, and that's where you get all of the other options. But it's still not the same, because in Origins, you can say the same thing, but in a different tone, and even more different tones than the 3 that you guys are offered. Because, for example, if you're talking to Alistair and you're like, you can either say to him, like, this is just an example, but you could say something like, Alistair, I'm just telling you this as a friend, I really think that you should be king, versus Alistair, I'm telling you as a friend, you really should be king. And you maybe with a different word choice or with a different tone. There seemed a lot more flexibility in Dragon Age Origins than I thought in Dragon Age 2, and I don't think that diplomatic, sarcastic, and the ruthlessness, aggressive, really covers as much of the spectrum of the tone of what you're saying as it did in Origins. So, but I did like, for what it was, I did like the fact that it was more cinematic, that the voice actor can speak all of the things that you said, but the paraphrasing makes it confusing. It was nice in Origins to know exactly word for word what you were going to say before you said it.
Yeah. It also really hurt the roleplay aspect in Dragon Age 2, not knowing exactly what you were going to say.
And a lot of players had this problem in Mass Effect as well. So. But I think that they're trying to fix that in Inquisition, because the dialogue system in Inquisition seems to be a greater improvement on the Dragon Age 2 system in that you can attach tone. I think what it is you're given the options of the words that you're going to say, and I think it actually writes it out even further. There's an option to be able to write it out even further what the words are going to say, and then from there you can select the tone. At least is what I saw in earlier previews of it. I don't know if they kept that or not, but it sounds like a lot more flexible system and probably a lot more work in the recording booth, but especially now that you have 2 separate voice actors for each race. But Okay. Oh wow, David Watts. Hi, David Watts. It's a pleasant surprise to see you here. He has a question. It just got +3, so I'll go ahead and ask. Hi all. I have never played a Dragon Age game, but I am thinking of picking it up. What would be a good starting character, or how would you go about choosing the character you would like to play? I think that's a good question for people who've never played a Dragon Age game.
The first thing I want to say is you poor soul.
Oh,
It's
it's okay, David.
It's a really good franchise to get into, but as far as choosing a character, it's more fun if you play something that you can kind of agree with, like with how I play rogues, because I'm not a physically strong person. I see more of myself as a rogue. I made this mistake a lot in role-playing games, is to just power build, like just play to have fun. And as far as a starting character, just follow that rule. Look at all the options, weigh it out, and see what happens. That's my advice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I totally agree, because personally I like to have a view of the combat from a distance and affect everyone. So mages are my obvious choice. But yeah, that's because I enjoy that kind of tactics and strategy. So just ask yourself, how do you want, how do you like to fight,
Yeah.
and just choose whatever.
Mecha?
There are some things that should not be said, to be honest. So many nasty things. You should really be playing the first two, so that way you can actually get the taste of what is happening before you play Inquisition, because otherwise you're probably going to be running around like a headless chicken. No joke on that.
What I normally tell people is Origins is a great game to play. I personally like Dragon Age 2, but I can understand why a lot of people say you can skip Dragon Age 2 and just get a summary or go through the keep to know what happens at Dragon Age 2. Origins is a great way to not only know the story, but to immerse yourself and learn the lore, because the Dragon Age lore is very rich and very interesting, just like in Mass Effect, for example. And it's just a great way for you to really get a feel for how the world works, and who the key players are as far as positions go. But if you're going to start just with Dragon Age Inquisition, definitely start with the Keep, because the Keep will help you. It's free for everybody. It's online. You can go on it right now, and you'll be able to catch yourself up on a summary of what's been going on in the previous two games. And then as far as picking your character, I'm going to agree with Efron. In that you should probably start by deciding what your fighting style is. You know, do you want to be a ranged character? Do you want to be an in-your-face melee character? Do you see yourself as more of a tank? Do you see yourself more as the mage, who's a little bit more tactical? Do you see yourself as someone who has a little more finesse, like the rogue? Whatever you think would be more fun to play, and then the class dictates what race options you have. If you want to do research, I'm sure the game will provide you with background information of what each of the races are like. There's actually something on the Dragon Age Inquisition webpage right now. I think there's a section on the webpage that says who is the Inquisitor, or who are you, or something along those lines, where you can actually look at all the different races and characters, and that might help you ahead of time decide what character you want to be and what would be the most interesting for you to play or role play, and then just go from there. So.
And you can always start with a character, get a taste of how it feels, and chase later. So.
Yeah, it's the game, and even in general, the game has. I'd like to anticipate, because it was that way in Origins, has great replay value, and I think that you might find yourselves with the problem of there's so many characters I really want to try to play, nor so many types of characters you want to try to play. If romance matters to you, you might have to take that in consideration as well. If there's a character that you learn about ahead of time, that you think would be interesting to romance. Some of them are race-gated, some of them are gender-gated. So that might be something you might want to take in consideration when you choose a character. It's definitely going to be a consideration that I'm taking when I'm doing my Let's Play. So, okay. Great questions, guys. The Jonas V1 again asks, I was wondering if characters from the Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, for example, Wynne or Isabella, will make a small appearance or have part in helping out your army, your Inquisition army. Thoughts about that?
I think with Isabella, there'll be too many sailors coming in and out of her, if you catch my drift. I had to make that joke. Sorry, it was just
No, I get it. No, I got it. Yes.
She likes big boats and she cannot lie.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
I'm pretty sure she'll probably dance to Anaconda as well.
Oh, gosh. I didn't see that.
Someone don't write that or do a video of that, please. Don't. But as I was stressing that point, I think Wynne will probably make a small appearance. I mean, she does have the spirit of faith in her, if I can recall from her lore. Yeah, I think she does have the spirit of faith. But I think she will make a small appearance.
Okay.
She probably will be moving to Orlais to help Vivienne, so I think she will be helping out the army. Isabella, highly unlikely. Because, sailors.
Yeah. In my story, Isabella ran away with the book and never came back. So I don't really care if she comes back.
Okay.
I never liked her that much. But Wynne, I don't think she will, because she was already pretty weak. I think. I mean, is that a spoiler? Can we talk about her that, or?
If the problem is we can't. I know the answer for one of the characters, and it starts getting into the books, and I don't want to get into the books. So if it's about a book, then you can't talk about it.
No,
I'm going to assume that he means like anyone that is already not being confirmed to be in there, like Varric.
Sure.
And things like that.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. I think that's fair game.
I personally, because they've shown you the map, and it looks like you can go into Antiva and Orlais.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe since at one point because Liliana, I think she was looking for the Warden, and Dragon Age 2. Maybe if your Warden had a good relationship with Zavron, you go to Antiva and you meet him, and he's like, "Well, we don't have the Warden, but you can have some assassins."
The simple question coming from me is that you actually do learn about what Isabella and Wynne are up to in between the games from the books. Just so that I don't spoil anything, I'm not going to specify which books, but that can probably answer your question as far as how much of involvement they might have in Dragon Age Inquisition, and that's all I'm going to say about those two specifically. As far as other characters from Dragon Age Origins, I definitely think that it's possible for them to appear, but if they do appear, I don't want it to be like some brief cameo, like, oh look, Zevron's here. You know, I'd like for their reason to be there to be meaningful, and not just nothing too fan servicey. I mean, I can be a sucker about fan service as well, but it's clear that Morrigan seems to be there for a very good reason story-wise. Liliana is there for a very good story reason. And that's already 2 people from Origins. I don't know if they're going to add any more people beyond that, especially since you're bringing back Cullen and Cassandra and Varric as well. So they've got pretty much both of the games covered. But who knows? Okay. Calendar Cray has another question. Are you satisfied with the 3 given roles, the 3 given classes, I'm assuming, for your hero character, or do you miss a specific character model like druids, paladins, monks, archers, etc., etc.?
Well, Personally, I would like an option to just build yourself however you liked.
Mm.
No class,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
and then pick like
Sort of like
heavy armor with sword and shield, and magic, and I don't know, mix it yourself.
sort of like Elder Scrolls.
Morrowind, how
something
you
like
could
that.
make your custom class, things like that.
But that was also in Oblivion as well.
Yeah, it was in Oblivion too.
As long as they balance it so that not everybody is going to pick the same thing. You know, not everybody is going to make this is the best build, and that just ends up being the build that majority of players play because it's the
Yeah.
most OP. It's the most OP.
Yeah,
So-
power builds. I think for the most part, especially if you roleplay it, you could be of those archetypes. Like a druid, for example, you could just be a Dalish elf mage who will do nothing to harm nature. You're basically a druid at that point. Paladins and templars are nearabouts the same. You know, monks is the only one that I don't think that you would have a hard time figuring out. But if you really stretched it, I think you could make some of those. At least headcanon wise.
That would be hard.
I
Monk, I think.
when I first started playing the Dragon Age Origins game, I admit that I was disappointed that they didn't have something like a cleric class or like a priest. Or like, you know, and I know that they kind of put that into mages. They added the creation branch to the mages, but for me, it's not the same. And because I typically, the priest or the healer is what I typically play in a fantasy setting, and I think that there just seems to be a, you know, there's a clear separation between Rogue and Warrior, and then Mage. It just seems a little unbalanced. There's like Rogue and Warrior and then Mage, especially when you throw in the fact that dwarves can't even be mages, so their mages are like this specialized class. So I thought it would be better if they balanced it a little by adding another magical class, such as the Priest. But I don't think in this lore, like the Chantry Priests, for example, necessarily can cast magic, so I guess it just fits into their lore. Things like druids, paladins, monks. I mean, if you, I guess there is a place where you could have like hand-to-hand combat as opposed to weapons. But I don't think that I personally would think that the game was missing something if they didn't include those. But I agree with a friend in that a build your own class would be really the most ideal thing, as long as there's motivations to not just power build your way to a class.
And crossover classes might not be such a bad idea, sort of like the arcane tricksters and things like that from D&D.
Mm-hmm.
So that might not be a terrible idea.
Okay, let's move on to the next question from Dark Striker. Hi, Dark Striker. He is asking, this is a pretty interesting question. What type of villain do you think will be the Dragon Age? Do you think the Dragon Age Inquisition boss will be a tragic villain, a true evil villain, etc., etc., etc.? A sympathetic villain? I'm personally hoping it's not just going to be a cut and dry, you know, evil, darkness, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, because I'm not really sure how well villains, or not villains, but dragons work in Dragon Age. I don't understand, because I know how they work in D&D. I don't know how particularly intelligent they are.
I think I may have to answer this one, considering I voiced a villain for you, AA. I think as someone who's actually did an analysis on the Elder One, by the sound of the way that he's in the trailer saying, where is your god now?
Mm-hmm.
He's not being really sympathetic. I don't see him as a sympathetic villain. I may see him as a tragic one that turned true evil. That's what I mostly see, because he's basically being so sarcastic to you. He's pretty much GLaDOS, but in dragon form.
Probably not as humorous either.
No.
Well, I think from what I've seen, I think it's going to be a true evil villain. But
Okay.
I would really like if they turn the tables and make it like it's I don't know, a human that discovers something and now has superpowers or whatever and believes he's a god, and you find out that I don't know something, and turns out to be a tragic villain or whatever. It could
I
be
would like some digging to be done, like being able to uncover more about the villain in particular and seeing motivations and things like that. Because most of the time you just run up and you fight them and you leave. I would like to be able to figure out more about them, personally.
I think in general, most people appreciate a more complex villain, as opposed to just something straightforward. And the reason why I think there's opportunity for that is because if you watch the very first teaser trailer of Dragon Age Inquisition, where Morrigan is narrating the trailer that was released like, what, a year and a half ago? One of the things that she says near the end is, as the Inquisitor, will you make choices to save the world or bring it down to its bitter end? And in order for your Inquisitor to have the desire to bring it to its bitter end, I think that somehow the villain has to be able to make a valid argument as to why you want to do that, as to why you want to side with him or not, or at least or not oppose him, I guess. If there is that option to bring Pharrell or Thetis into that state, I think that the villain has to be able to be convincing enough to do that to your Inquisitor.
maybe.
But then again, this is the dragon that's not been voiced by John Hurt.
Well, I was going to say maybe the villain is the Inquisitor. From what we've seen,
That's
we
a
don't
good,
know much about what happens after the explosion. So maybe
That's true.
he splits in two, and one part is like Ender's justice.
The other part whose left hand is glowing, because you've got one hand that's glowing. So where's the other one? So maybe it's the other. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But, like, I just don't know much about the dragons in general. I don't know how intelligent they are, because I know in other fantasy settings they typically have a big overarching plan.
Yeah.
I think the dragons in this series are more territorial than that you would expect. Just the Wyverns in, of course, the Talos DLC, and the High Dragon that was in the Bone Pit, that was very territorial, and of course the High Dragon that was in the Urn of Ashes mission.
I have no idea.
Those were territorial. I think they behave more like dogs.
Okay.
It's big and that can breathe fire.
To Brian Wallaceby, Brian, welcome. He just joined, and he wasn't sure if we had covered this about our thoughts on the role that Morrigan's child is going to have in the game. We actually did touch on this earlier, Brian. So when this podcast is over, you'll be able to go back and see the recording, and see us talking about this specific topic. So we'll go ahead and move on. I want to go pick Miss Diani's question because she.
Waited so patiently.
Yeah, she hasn't asked that many questions yet. How much of a backstory would you miss out on if you don't read the books before Inquisition? I think I'm the only one who can answer this, right? Because I'm the only one who read the books. Yes, no?
Yes.
Most
I
likely.
want to say I hope it's not much.
What did you say, Mecha?
Just go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to do this really quickly. I think that obviously, since I haven't played Inquisition, I don't know how much of the content in the books are going to apply to the game. Obviously, I think Cole is going to be the stuff in Asunder is going to probably be the most direct in terms of background story because Cole is introduced in that book, and you get to learn more about him. But I'd like to believe that the game will do a decent job of telling you about stuff, important stuff in Asunder that you might have missed if you didn't read the book, and will explain to you all about Cole's deal. As far as the other books, I have not read fully The Mask of the Empire yet, and I have read the graphic novels, the one that involves Isabella and Varric and Alistair, because they have their own adventure. It doesn't seem like that storyline with that graphic novel trilogy has anything directly to do with the story of Inquisition, but again, it's hard to tell because I haven't played the game yet, so it's hard for me to answer that question really thoroughly, unfortunately. But if I was to recommend that you read one of the books, Asunder is definitely a great read. I think from what I've heard from other people, The Mask of the Empire is the weaker of the two books. And the graphic novels has an okay story, but you can go through them quickly. I think I was able to finish all 3 books in an evening, less than that. So, just as an FYI. Calendar Cray asks another question. In general, are you a fan of the modding scene of games, and do you expect from the developers to make their games easily moddable, especially RPGs, and do you install mods or do you play vanilla, or what do you prefer to play with?
As an avid Elder Scrolls fan, I deeply enjoy mods. There are still mods that are being made for Morrowind, of all things, which was released I think like a decade ago at this point. So if it's possible, and if my PC can handle it, I like to play with mods, and it also goes back to the problem of other archetypes in like Dragon Age games. If they made it easily moddable, people could make their own or play monks or whatever you want. So I think it's a nice option to have. It brings more life into the video game that you would have to be able to put in by yourself. Mm-hmm. And it also gives you a lot of really good ideas, because Bethesda has taken some ideas from modders that in like Oblivion and Morrowind and put them into their newer titles. So it really helps all around. There's like no evil part of it.
Yeah, I really like to have the possibility of changing something if you don't like it. For example, in Skyrim, it's a great game and everything, but I couldn't stand the looks of the vanilla faces of the people. Everyone was so ugly. So, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I got a mod, and it made the game better for me in like 5 minutes.
And there's also the mod in Dragon Age to remove helmets.
Oh yeah.
So there's that one.
Mecha?
However, my version, I'm on the PS3, considering, and will have to pay vanilla completely blind. But probably several months down the line, once I get the PC version, I'll more likely mod the living shit out of it.
When I first play an RPG game for the first time, I like to play it without any mods. I like to play it vanilla for my first playthrough. That way, if I ever do add mods later, I can appreciate the mods more, since I know what the actual game is like. I think that the Origins community did some amazing things with mods. Like, you know, obviously I'm a big fan of the Sir Gilmore mod, which is what I use in my Origins. I love the wedding ceremony mod for Alistair. The Alistair wedding ceremony is beautifully done. and these are things that are not meant to break the game in the sense of making things easier, because I think you can definitely make cheat mods, and I'm not interested in cheat mods. I think a lot of us agree that we appreciate the mods that enhance the experience. Origins had another one called environment enhancement or environment fixes mods, which just in general made every city, every town a lot more dynamic, a lot more lively, and a lot more realistic. So those are the things that I do enjoy putting in a game, and I think that BioWare should continue to try to make it easier for people to make these mods, because I think that there are many players who would not play their game if it wasn't moddable in some form, because like Efren said, he just didn't like the looks of a lot of the characters, so he probably would have stopped playing the game if it wasn't for a mod.
I wouldn't stop, but
Well,
play less happy.
I mean, one can definitely argue, you should appreciate and you should enjoy the game that the developers made and intended for you to play. But I think there's also value with fan-made mods that can make people more passionate about the core game itself. Because it definitely did for me. I think part of the reason why I didn't. I think Dragon Age 2 would have been easier for certain players to swallow if it was moddable. It was easily more moddable, because there are people that had issues with the game that I think would make it more enjoyable if it could be modded to fix the things people had issues with. So.
And plus, it adds even more replay value and longevity
Yes.
to a game.
Yes, it does. Agreed. Yes. Okay. Calendar asks, with what are you satisfied with your NPC rivalry, disagreements, shallow friendships, deep friendships, or romances? How many possible paths shall your NPC emotionally go? I think the question he's asking is are you satisfied with all of those different types of relationships you can have with NPCs?
Generally, yeah, you have to have both sides of a coin. If as much as you can get along with someone, you have to be able to disagree with them just as much. So, as deep of a friendship that you can have, I also think there should be a flip side to it.
Okay.
I think it makes the characters better just to have all that options, because in your first playthrough you know the character and I don't know, be BFFs with them, but maybe you want to know more about them, make another character and hate them completely to know how they react,
Mm-hmm.
and you're learning more about them that way. So it's really makes more replayability and
Mm-hmm.
makes the characters better in general.
Mecha?
I can't really say much about this, really. I mean, I do feel some attachment to the NPCs that I had a pleasure to play with, even though they are just programs. They're just programs in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But from my view, I can't really say anything until it comes out.
Okay. I think overall, I've said this several times, and I think overall, I just want to make sure that the friendships that you can develop with your companions are just as satisfying as a romance. Especially if there is a character that you really enjoy, that you really like a lot, but is unavailable to you in a romance aspect. It would be really nice if you still can develop a deep relationship with that person platonically, because I think a lot of people were hoping for more of that, not only in the Dragon Age series, but also from Mass Effect as well. So, okay. Magoyan King Jimeno asks, would you like to have a hero character with a different accent choice, like with a French or Orlesian accent, or a marvelous Spanish accent, like the one of Efren? Marvelous. You mean Antivan accent?
I would love it for what comes to my personal situation. But again, I think all these things just make the world of Dragon Age more interesting, more deep, and I would love it.
Okay.
I think it would be definitely more interesting if you were given the option. They just run into issues with money and voice actors. But if they could get around that, that would be really cool.
Mecha, do you have an opinion?
Well, really, I would like a change of the accents. I mean, so far we have the British accent, which of course is voiced by the one and only actor who plays that one, and also we have the American accent, whose actor's name I forgot. But yeah, I would like to see different variations of it. I mean, it'd be much more cleaner stuff, so that way we have like a French or Orlesian Canary or a French elf who would agree, or who knows, a Scottish dwarf.
I always was very intrigued by the use of accents in the Dragon Age game because they purposely, you have of course accents based on region, so the Orlesians sound French, the Antivans sound Spanish, but even throughout different races. So dwarves are traditionally, they sound American. The humans traditionally sound more British. In Dragon Age 2, they started making elves sound more Welsh.
Welsh Irish.
I'm sorry?
Welsh Irish, because
Yes.
yeah, it was mostly Irish. It's just Meryl.
Oh, Irish.
Meryl's
Yes.
actor was Welsh, so.
Gotcha. So I found it really interesting that they even gave different accents to the different races. So it looks like with your Inquisitor you can break out of that mold a little bit, you know, because they only have 2 voice actors between the 4 races. Yeah, I mean, obviously it'd be great to have more options, but that also costs resources. So.
Or mods.
Or mods. Somebody wants to voice act for their thing. So.
Yeah.
We have a question from a new person. I'm Hello of Games. Welcome. I'm Hello of Games. The question is, who do you think your Inquisitor will be most drawn to, either platonically or romantically, with your current knowledge and idea of your Inquisitor? If you guys have already talked about who you're going to romance, then talk about, besides that character, who would you be drawn to platonically, do you think your Inquisitor would be drawn to platonically?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Cole, Varric, and Vivian. Cole because of his demeanor and how she would see him and want to kind of allow him to help but also look after him at the same time. Varric because they would be great drinking buddies. And Vivian because while she's a Kunari, but she's also interested in different cultures and she would love a challenge. And I think Vivian would provide that in large quantities.
Vivian's Kunari?
No, she's not Kunari, but my Kunari would want a challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got confused up.
Well, there's speculations. If this is a spoiler, this is not a spoiler because it's speculations. Vivienne has the porn hat, so people are wondering.
That looks like more a headdress.
Yes,
I always
that's
thought
true.
Vivian was a Kunari.
People are wondering if Vivienne is actually a Kunari and she's hiding the fact that she's a Kunari by happening to wear the headdress. There's thoughts about
the ears would stick out.
I don't know. It's just a theory. A bunch of people are throwing theories out. I
I
think
would be
it,
surprised if
that would be a cool twist. I think that'd be a really cool twist if you ended up being Canary.
Sounds like
And
something M. Night
suddenly there-
Shyamalan would do.
And suddenly there's illusion magic.
Yes.
Well, my Inquisitor, I think, would be really interested to know Solas, being another elven mage.
Hmm.
And personally, I think I'm going to be interested in that character from all he has to offer in knowledge and just background stuff.
Mhm. My knee-jerk reaction is again Cole, because I think of all of the Inquisition characters, I think Cole would be probably the one that I think the Inquisitor will want to take care of and protect the most. So that's probably gonna, and I think there's just so much mystery about Cole, and all of the characters I think are interesting, but again, I think that there's a lot more that you can learn from Cole's background. So, okay. This question is again from Jonas V1. For the Dragon Age Inquisition multiplayer, is it like the Mass Effect multiplayer? Like I know there is more room for dungeons, but is it like you defeat a group of enemies, then another wave comes till you reach a certain time? Do any of you guys know anything about multiplayer? Any about the multiplayer?
Not a thing.
I've
They
seen,
do live streams about it.
I've seen like some videos about it, but there's not much about it.
Yeah, I know that there isn't going to be a system where if you play multiplayer, I don't think that there's like a what is it called? Like in Mass Effect 2 or Mass Effect 3? Something readiness, world galaxy readiness system or something along those lines. I don't think they're doing anything like that in multiplayer, so I think that it's completely separate in terms of the progress that you make in the actual game. But one,
Multiplayer mode sounds like co-op almost.
yeah, it is co-op. I believe it is
Yeah.
co-op. It's not a PvP. It's not player versus player. But one thing that I do like a lot about the multiplayer is that each character that you play each class that you play is a defined character with a defined background. They have a defined backstory, which I think is really interesting, because it might make things a little bit less personal for you as the player because you don't actually get to create essentially your character from scratch with your own personal head idea of what your character is all about. It's just given to you. It's provided to you. But I think in general it definitely helps to make it seem like whatever is happening is at least part of that universe, is officially part of that lore. So, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jonas, we don't know much about multiplayer other than that.
I think from what he's asking, he looks more concerned about how the missions are going to work, because
Yeah, and
from what I understand, is going to be like a set of dungeons that you go from point A to point B,
yeah,
killing anything in the way. But, well, again, we can be pleasantly surprised if there's like more variety in the way.
yeah. I don't know, unfortunately.
They might even allow players to create their own dungeons for other people to go through because other games have done that too.
That would be really neat.
Mhm.
I mean, they're sort of experimenting with that a little bit with what is that called? The You've Been Chosen, the other BioWare game that they're playing. That's sort of similar. The You've Been Chosen one that actually is player versus player with a dungeon master. I forgot. We haven't heard of anything about it for a
I
while.
remember Portal 2 also has it as well. Create their own testing
Yeah.
was.
That would be neat. That would be interesting.
Shadow Realms, maybe?
Maybe. Shadow Realms. Yeah, I think that might be it. Calendar Cray asks, it was stated as NPCs' hidden agendas. Would it be possible for you that the Inquisitor has got an unknown task to accomplish, given from creatures from the Fade, of which you will learn during the game, but not right at the beginning of the game? So I guess, would it be possible? Do you think it'd be possible for the Inquisitor to have his or her own hidden agenda from the Inquisition?
But
Mm.
it would be hidden from the player too, so
Maybe two.
No,
It could be.
go ahead.
It could be well within the realm of possibility.
Yeah. I think it would be really interesting if you were able to given the choice to play somebody who is a double agent, who is like who's in the Inquisition but is actually trying to go against the Inquisition. I don't think I could bring myself to do that, but I think other people might find that interesting to be able to have that hidden agenda from everybody else, and that you've actually been communicating with the Elder One this entire time and are in cahoots with him.
I wouldn't put it past BioWare to give you the option.
Yeah.
it would fit in with my little theory about the Elder One being the Inquisitor. If it's through the game, maybe it's inside the Inquisitor both sides, and then it comes out and fights you, or maybe you agree with him or whatever, and you get like that mirror image of you telling you what to do from the I don't
Yeah.
know.
Even though I don't see myself doing it, I think that it would be great if BioWare provided the option, the dark side option, and not just near the end of the game, but maybe even earlier.
Yeah, because I've played a game like that where there was a demon path that you could take right at the beginning of the game.
Mhm. That's a very good question, Calendar. I'm doubtful that that will actually happen, but at least, like I said, from the trailer, from what Morrigan was saying, it sounded like you had the ability to sabotage the Inquisition, or at least side with or not oppose the villain of the game. Reclusiarch has signed on, and he asks, from the gameplay footage you've seen so far, what has impressed you the most? Graphics, gameplay, environments, animations, something else?
Any typical gamer will go for graphics, no doubt, because they're complete bricks. For me, it is mostly gameplay.
Okay,
'Cause,
gameplay.
Learning the mechanics is much more easier if it's broken down and simplified, especially with someone who uses a controller.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more probably just going to go for the tactical route and AoE everything, if I can.
Mostly for me, it's also the gameplay. I still go back and play PlayStation 1 games with polygons just because I love the gameplay. I'm not too overly impressed by graphics if there's nothing else backing them up. I also like some of the environments, and some of the animations are very fluid, especially with what I've seen of the mage and the rogue archers. I've seen things like that, but I'm also trying to make sure I don't spoil anything story-wise for myself. So.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of was expecting the graphics and the environment upgrades because technology advances. But what it impressed me genuinely was the crafting system, because I wasn't expecting it. So it was like, what is this? Why is it so awesome?
They have crafting now?
Oh, yes.
I love crafting. Like anything in the game that allows me to customize things even more, especially games that have the magical word of alchemy. Like you put two things in a pot, you mix it together, see what comes out. Can't get enough of that.
That's what impressed me.
The crafting system is also interesting in that there's an idea of environment. So if you continually harvest a specific ingredient in a specific area, it won't grow back. If you do it enough times, it won't grow back like right away. So you have to bear in mind the ecosystem. I think that's the best way to explain it. So I think that's a really interesting dynamic. So you can't just continue hoarding or harvesting an ingredient because you have to pay in mind the ecosystem around you. So.
That might also tie into building your keep. Do you want a fancy new set of armor, or do you need higher walls?
Yeah, exactly. I would love if they gave us that, choice.
I hate making that choices. I always feel like I made the wrong one.
For me, the thing that impressed me the most with Inquisition is how much the developers listen to the fans. Because coming from Dragon Age 2, fans are very vocal about stuff in Dragon Age 2 that they missed from Origins or that they thought could have been better executed. People were upset about races, so not only did they bring back the 3 main races from Origins, they added a 4th one. People were upset about all 4 characters being bi. So they brought bi characters, they got straight characters, they've got completely gay characters, lesbian characters in the romances. Again, there's a lot of checkboxes. As I was going through the last couple of years, I was just noticing they were checking a lot of checkboxes that people were complaining about in Dragon Age 2, kept a lot of things that people liked about Dragon Age 2, grabbed things from Dragon Age Origins that worked, and it looks like that it really looks like this is the game that BioWare has intended on making for a long time, because I honestly don't think that Dragon Age 2 is the game that they intended on making, because they simply weren't given the time.
Yeah.
They had a very quick turnaround. After Dragon Age Origins was released, they were like, all right, we need to get Dragon Age 2 out in a year. Go. And they have delayed Inquisition twice at least now. At least announced-wise, they've been delayed it twice. And I was happy every single time they delayed it, which for many players might sound a little backwards, but no, I'm happy, especially with what happened with Dragon Age 2 and what a lot of people felt happened with Mass Effect 3. So.
Yeah, now it's no longer 3 endings, it's 40 endings.
I think that's a little. I think by what they mean by that is that the endings have different permutations depending on your decisions. But I don't think it's going to be a red, green, and blue type of scenario.
No, it's going to be multiple colors.
Yes.
We got a full color spectrum going on here. We even have a rainbow.
Yes. Let me see if I can find another question. Thank you for that, by the way, Reclusiarch. Magoyo King Jimeno asks, what specialization do you like the most so far and why? I'm assuming the Inquisition specializations. And related to the previous discussion that I made, well, I think we already answered the accent question. So yeah, so we'll stick with what specialization are you most intrigued by?
Don't mind me. I'm just going to use my phone for a second.
I actually looked over some of the rogue specializations like a couple of days ago, and the 2 that are still fresh in my mind are Assassin, because I just like Assassins, and Tempest for the rogues.
Because?
I need to relook at Tempest, but Assassin just simply because I always like to play the sneakier characters, and I like big numbers on bosses, but I also like the stealth mechanics. So it appeals both to my roleplay side and my need to have lots of damage.
Specializations. Sorry.
For me, as a mage, I was kind of disappointed that they took the healing specialization, whatever. But I think a Rift Mage can be really, really cool.
Oh,
yeah,
a Rift Mage?
Rift Mage sounds great.
It sounds
It does sound really cool.
Borderlands.
Borderlands?
Yeah, because Lilith snapped her fingers and was able to turn invisible and walk from phase through different things.
Yeah.
Knight of Enchanter sounds cool too.
Oh yeah.
The Rift Mage is also something I'm eyeing as well, and I think a lot of it again is because it's shiny and new, and considering what the Inquisition story is about, I think being a Rift Mage probably is going to be super helpful. Almost too helpful, so because I feel like they kind of leaned more people to move towards the Rift Mage direction than they might have intended to.
Personally, I probably will end up being a Rift Mage because the other two are not exactly my thing. I mean, Necromancer is
Necromancer.
it's not a keeper's thing to do, and the Knight Enchanter doesn't float my boat. So
Yeah, the Tempest just really speaks to me with its description. Unpredictable experts specializing in alchemical mixtures that wreathe them in frost or flame. Just throwing alchemy grenades everywhere, just turning the battlefield into complete and utter chaos. Probably what she's going to end up doing.
sounds fun.
I want to ask another question from Reclusiarch. He asks, do you have any concerns going into Inquisition?
So,
What are your concerns, if any?
My general.
They do M. Night Shyamalan on it.
That they don't what?
We don't speak of that. We don't speak of that. But it's generally my concerns with any voice acted game is that some characters might drop off in their depth, because it's happened twice now, from Dragon Age Origins to Dragon Age 2 and from Fable 2 to Fable 3. Like, whenever they've just all of a sudden dropped voices in, that things have gone awry on some level. So I'm hoping that that's fixed, but it still has me a bit nervous.
Okay. Yeah, as Ephron, do you have any concern?
I think except for that the role playing and the difficulty levels are stable and decent, I'm all illusion with this. Well, illusion, I don't think. Well, I have good thoughts only for Inquisition.
My concern is less about me and more about the community in general. My concern is this the game that's going to bring people back to BioWare? Because a lot of people kind of have started dismissing BioWare because of not only Dragon Age 2, but also because of Mass Effect 3. And I think this is BioWare's chance. I'm speaking as a fanboy, so my apologies. I think this is BioWare saw Dragon Age Inquisition as a chance to try to convince players back and say, hey, we can deliver what you loved about our company before. We can provide you with what you saw as a true BioWare game. So my concern is whether or not this came in time for people who have been turned off by the company or have been turned off by the series, either Dragon Age or Mass Effect, to give BioWare a second chance. Because I think, based on what I've seen, whatever sins they committed, I think they're doing a really good job and are working hard to redeem themselves from their sins. So that's my concern.
I think most of that was partially of EA's fault.
Yeah,
Trying
I was
to
about
make
to
them
say.
rush.
Yeah.
I kind of blame EA.
Yeah.
I-
EA basically pushed them over.
Yeah, I've been very vocal about my opinions of EA, and I, in my personal opinion, have saw them to be a lot of BioWare's downfall. I'm not saying that BioWare themselves haven't made mistakes either. They have also made mistakes too, but I think that EA is pushing them, and their desire for dollar signs hasn't helped the company.
And I think a big part of it is that BioWare, because I've known some companies that do this, but BioWare isn't saying, like, too bad, this is the new Dragon Age now, you're going to have to deal with it. They're actually trying to remedy some of the problems.
Yes.
I'm looking at you, Devil May Cry.
Okay. Cool. Very good question. Thank you, Reclusiarch. I'm going to now have a question from Yanch Lin. Welcome, Yanch. I apologize if I butchered your name pronunciation. What's your thoughts about the battle systems in the previous Dragon Age games, including talent tree, balancing, encounters, difficulty, etc., and what kind of improvements would you like to see in Inquisition as far as the battle system goes?
I would like to see the combos that you could do in Dragon Age 2, like freezing an enemy and then shattering them with a powerful hit from like a warrior or something. I would like to see that expanded upon. More things that you can pile on top of each other and make interesting effects.
The cross-class combos.
Yeah,
right? Mm-hmm.
yeah, those, and there was a. They dabbled in it a little bit in Origins, and they had more in Dragon Age 2. I'd like to see that expanded upon more.
Okay.
I think they have the potential to expand it a lot with all the potions and that stuff. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a really interesting part of the system, and it would be awesome to see them better.
Mecha, do you have an opinion about the battle systems?
Well, it's pretty much what Super said, really. I mean, combinations across classes would actually be quite more fantastic. And since they have developed over the combat style in Dragon Age 2, along with the tactical styles of Origins, it would be a great combination just to crosshair between, like, if like you have Beric use the rain of hail of arrows over a squad of enemies, and you can have like Cassandra coming in from one side, Paul driving in from the other side, and have like Sarah picking them off one by one,
Mm-hmm.
with, like a poisonous arrow, and then finishing off with an electrocution attack.
I would love to see the return of finishing moves that were from Origins, because I know that they intended for there to be finishing moves not only for the melee characters but also for the mage character. There was supposed to be a finishing move for the mage in Dragon Age 2, and then it got taken out for some reason. So, I would love, and not just I'm not just talking about the really cinematic, when you kill an ogre in Dragon Age Origins, how you do the slow motion jump, and then you whack them, and then there's this whole thing where he takes the sword and goes boom, like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm also just talking about I know with when you're for example a dual wielding rogue, one thing is if you kill a character, you don't just slash them and they fall. It's like there's this move where you do a slash, flang, and then the body just flips around, and then sometimes you decapitate the character, and they had that in Origins, and I don't remember seeing that much in Dragon Age 2. So
No.
all of you know how violent of a person I am. What are your thoughts? Because I think this sort of relates with Yanch's question. What are your thoughts about the character-specific trees that they introduced in Dragon Age 2?
I think that will add a lot of team variety, especially since they've kind of removed the spirit healer. It allows you to get more in depth with mages, other than just using them as a healer. I'm interested to see how different Solas's specific spells and
Vivian's
and what's the other guy? I forget his name. The guy with the awesome mustache.
Oh, Dorian. Yeah.
I'm interested to see, because they're all three from different regions. I'd like to see all their different takes on magic, especially Dorian's with the Venter.
Someone's getting a text.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mech? I didn't hear you very well.
Someone was getting a text, so I can let you hear interference.
Oh, okay.
I think it might be from my end. I don't know.
Efren, do you have
I
an
have no
opinion?
idea.
Yeah, again, I think it adds to the world and to the characters to see how they manage in combat and how that's reflected in their skills. And also, again, it adds more replayability to come back to the game and focus on certain things with certain characters.
Some of you out there might be able to correct me, but I think I read somewhere that the the type of, if you picked a mage, for example, the type of spells that are available to you can be different based on the race that you pick.
Oh.
I think they said that if I think I read somewhere if you chose a Canary, for example, their spells are more primal, like more towards the primal school. I think there's still multiple schools you can pick from, but I think they're different based on your race. That may have changed since then. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think that's a good idea for diversity, or do you think that's too limiting for a race?
Just to
Too limited.
Too limited? Okay.
Yeah.
jumping back to the last question real quick, just because there was something else. I want it to be hard for me to pick my team. I wanted there to be various viable options, because in the last two games, it's just these three all the time. Let's go.
Yeah, you need a healer, Anders. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but as far as, I don't think I would like the schools to change specifically as mages. I think it would be better if the effects look different.
Okay.
So it's more of a cosmetic thing than it is a, this race is just the best mage because it has these schools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I think if they added another tree with spells, that could be OP.
Mm-hmm.
And if they just change the basics, maybe that would be not enough. I don't know.
Okay. I think we've answered the Yancha's question very thoroughly, so thank you, Yanch, for that question. Another question from I'm Hello of Games. What hanging plots are you most excited to see explained? For example, the God Baby. I think we've already talked about the God Baby. Are there other hanging plots that you want to see explained in this game? I think we also talked about Sandal. Sandal's a big hanging plot as well.
And Varric with the red lyrium.
And Varric with the red lyrium. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I want to see what happened with Anders in my story.
Okay.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And I can think of anything else right now.
I want to see the transition from the Liliana that we knew in Origins to the left hand of the Divine, especially since the fact of in my Origins, my Warden was a lady and she went with Liliana. So I want to see how that played out specifically.
Yeah. Mecha? Or I can answer before you if you want me to answer first.
Well, I think the only hanging plot is what happened to the other Dragon Age 2 characters.
Mm-hmm.
Such as Meryl, of course, you probably already know what's happening with Isabella right now this second. Aveline as well. I know this sounds a bit much of a push, but I would love to actually visit Kirkwall again, just to interrogate the characters, or at least try to find them to interrogate them about Hawk, before the whole trailer with the big giant spider.
Yeah.
And there's also Fenris. What's going on with him and the tattoos that he did? Did he actually end up killing his old master, or is he still around?
You can. You have the option to.
So if you left him alive, is he giving more lyrium tattoos to more people? How did that work out?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
To be honest, if my character ever met Fenris, he would probably punch him in the face.
I think mine sort of piggybacks off of Efren in that, in general, I think I would love to know what happened with the romances of both my Warden and my Hawk, whoever those romances happen to be. Because again, if you've invested so much time to romance that character, I think players would appreciate getting an update. So how's the relationship going? Are you guys married? How many kids do you have? Stuff like that.
One and nothing else.
I don't think they're going to get into that much detail, but But I don't know. I think it would be nice if they did that. I think the other major hanging plots we've already pretty much touched on.
Really, also another good hanging plot would be, what if your warden was a female noble and you romanced Alistair and they were both on the throne?
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Got any royal babies out? Because that would be something the entire country would want to know about.
Yes, that's a very good question. Yes. Or if your warden married Nora. So,
yeah, that's true too.
I agree. Okay, very good. Reclusiarch asks, what is the one thing that you're really looking forward to going into Inquisition? The character creation, the story, the NPCs, the romances, something else? Question mark?
Character creation, most definitely, because I'm just a sucker for character creation, customization. I really want to get into that crafting system, and I really want to get into a romance because I'm a hopeless romantic. So those are my three big ones.
For me, as much as I love character creation, it's a love-hate relationships because I'm never satisfied with the character, so I end up just after 2 hours getting whatever I got and jumping to the game because I can't. But for me, it's the story probably. There's too many things we don't know that I think are going to be awesome. Also, the NPCs are important, but for now we know a good deal about all of them. So the real deal is the story for me.
Mecha?
Well, character creation is obviously one. I mean, they've really now gone into a detailed overhaul. You can now change 2 parts of the iris now, which I find to be actually quite good. With Canary, you can also change the horns as well. You can become hornless, like an actual Cerebus would, or have longer horns like the Arishok does. And the NPCs, because I would love to know which the contest characters, the contest winners, who they play in the game. Trying to figure out who's who, really.
Definitely, for me, the more depth in your character development with the NPCs. I missed the ability that you had in Origins where you can actually talk to your characters at any time, just start chatting with them. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen in Inquisition. I think you still have to talk to them while they're in the keep, which is similar to the way Mass Effect does it on the Normandy, when this is fine. But they've put so much emphasis, especially on the webpage, to tell you, okay, these from the get-go, these are your companions, and here's a little bit about each one. Here's a little dossier of each one. And so, knowing all that information, each of the characters seem really interesting, and I really am excited to figure out, does my Inquisitor actually end up liking these characters as much as I do, or is there going to be stuff that they're going to be butting heads with? Because me as a player, I pretty much like all of the characters. So once I start role-playing, I'm going to try to see how the chemistry works between each of them, both in a romantic and a platonic level. On a more personal level, I guess the other biggest thing that I'm looking forward to with Inquisition is finally being able to Let's Play a Dragon Age game blind. Because I've been wanting to do that for a long time, because as a viewer who watches Let's Plays, I prefer watching blind Let's Plays, and I understand any of you viewers out there who didn't watch my Let's Play because it wasn't blind, and I totally understand that. So the fact that I can finally do this blind, exciting, it also makes me nervous, because now, I don't know if the next thing I'm going to do is going to kill Dorian or the Iron Bull. I don't know if I'm going to end up, being a sad single person at the end of this game. So,
a sad widow.
Sad widow, yeah. Okay. Thank you for that question, Reclusiarch. Calendar Cray, we haven't gotten one of his questions recently, and this one is a +2 on it. we have about less than 30 minutes left, because I think 3 hours is going to be a good amount of time. So whatever questions that you guys want to ask them now, and add a +1. After I answer Calendar or Cray, I'm going to ask actually the panel if there's a specific question or topic that you want to talk about, because I want to give you guys a chance to provide feedback as well. But Calendar's question is, which voice actor are you looking forward to the most if you know he reappears, aside from the already known NPCs? And I think this is just voice actors, not just for your Inquisitor, but just the other characters, the other character voice actors.
I can answer this really easily. I don't know any voice actors by name. I don't know any actors by name.
Well, but you know characters. You know.
Yeah, I just know, like, hey, that's the guy that played Wolverine. I want to see Alistair's voice actor out there again, because he just had a very interesting humor about him. That
Steve Valentine.
Yeah.
Not a surprise I knew his name.
Like, I really liked his character, voice actor, and I liked Wynn's character, too, because she had a very wise air about her. So those are the main two, I think.
For me, I think Severn's voice actor is going to be the Inquisitor now. And I just loved Severn's accent, so
yeah,
I think that's my answer. However,
Suppose the Severn's going to be the voice of the British Inquisitor.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
How about you, Mecha?
Well, the person's already been announced, and everyone knows that she is my absolute favorite, Claudia Black.
Morrigan.
Yes.
Morrigan, Claudia Black.
Yeah, good answer.
Claudia
spite.
Claudia Black, I mean, I might be gay, but man, her voice makes me start questioning my sexuality. Like, her voice itself. If you guys have played Mass Effect 3, I felt a lot like Samantha Trainer and Edie's voice. I just want to take her voice and throw her up against the wall.
Yeah, just attracted to that voice, because that damn voice, you gotta use like
so
geez.
beautiful.
I think it's like Steve Blum with the ladies, really.
Steve, that's Varric's voice?
Yes.
Yes, Varric's voice is ridiculously sexy.
Yes, it is.
Such a shame he's not romanceable.
Yes.
There's only been 2 male voice actors in my life that has made me think, man, if I was gay, and that would be Varric's voice and Gig from a completely different game. He's from Soul Nomad. So those are my 2 big ones.
I think I did a Kiss Kill Marry with Gig at some point.
Yes, I gave you a lot of Kiss Kill Marries.
And I answered most of them from the ones that I recognized. For me, the voice actor, obviously Steve Valentine. I mean, I love Steve Valentine as Alistair for obvious reasons, and not just because of the character, but just his voice is just amazing in my opinion. I love Vivienne's voice actor. I love Vivienne's accent and the way she speaks and the way she carries herself, and I am really excited to see how she just lets loose with Orlesian insults, because Orlesian insults are the most amazing things in the world.
Yeah.
Those would be the 2 characters that I'm most excited about, voice-wise. Do any of you 3 have a topic or a question that you are interested in talking about, discussing? Any of you? Otherwise, I'll continue with the other questions if you don't have anything.
I want to see more exposition in Flemeth's game. Because she has played around with so many fates, so many people, and I want to know if she's doing it just because she's amused, or does she have an actual plan of some kind?
Yeah, let's discuss Flemeth in general. Like, your thoughts about Flemeth and what she's playing at and her involvement in all of this.
Because she led Morgan to believe that she wanted to consume Morgan's body. But in Dragon Age 2, she kind of had a plan to be safe even if she was killed.
And in Witch Hunt, when you talk to Morrigan at the end by the Illuvion, she says, I thought that all Mel Flemeth wanted was power, but it's worse, way worse.
And that she is not a human, she's not a demon, she's not even truly human.
She's not even truly human. So what do you think is going on with her?
from her dialogue in Dragon Age 2, I always thought that Inquisition is going to be Flemeth's game. Because now we've seen in Origins we had this weird witch that we knew a little about. In Dragon Age 2 we had even less, because here she only appears a couple times, I think.
Mhm.
But everything points like in the future it's going to be something really awesome, or something really whatever. Now is the future, so let's see what happens.
And she's really involved with the Dalish. I want to know more about that too.
That's true. We never actually learned the favor that there's something going on with her, within her and Keeper Methiel.
Marfari.
Yes, there was something going on with them, and it was never clear what exactly was the arrangement between those two. So,
I think that pact might have been done before the Blight actually started.
possibly.
It sounded like it.
I'm interested in finding out Flemeth's community. This goes back to Sandal, her relationship with Sandal, because Sandal in Dragon Age 2 kept talking about this lady. He kept seeing this old lady, and it was freaking him out. And I think it's inferred that the lady he's talking about is Flemeth. So what does Flemeth will have to do with Sandal? Is what I'm kind of wondering about.
Yeah, Flemeth is just a character that we would all love to know more about. If it's just only a piece. She might even just be a really old god given new life. Like something that was long forgotten.
Actually, I was the one that actually cracked up about the old god bit. I think she is Rizakel, the old god of mystery.
Oh, that would be interesting.
I actually cracked that just after Witch Hunt before Dragon Age 2 came out.
Might make sense, because if old gods can become archdemons are dragons, she can turn into a dragon.
And plus the same color palette as well.
But she's not tainted by the Blight. And she knows how to shield herself from the Blight and the Darkspawn.
Right.
Yes, there's always one old god which is cleverer than the rest.
Yeah.
There has to
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Flemeth is. Do you think Flemeth is? Do you think Flemeth desires for the Fade to engulf Thedas, or you think she does not desire that at all?
I think she likes humans running around doing weird things. I think she enjoys that way too much and messing with people to let that all go away. Because the Fade is just so predictable, because if you dream it, it happens.
Well, I mean, she wanted the Blight to end, so is that different? What's the difference between that and the Blight?
I suppose the Blight, it's more of something that could eventually creep over into her.
Okay.
More of a self-preservation thing. And plus, if the Blight engulfed the entire world, again, she wouldn't have anyone to mess with. It would just be crowded by Darkspawn.
Yeah, I agree. I think she wants there to be trouble, but not all the time. I mean, trouble and then stop, and then another.
Contained trouble.
Keep her amused. Yeah, because she appears at the beginning of every every character's story, so maybe she's the one making it happen.
Mecha, were you gonna say something?
No, sorry, I saw the old concept art for Flemeth, and it's much more different than she is in Origins now. It's
and
more
in Dragon Age 2?
updated how it's supposed to be number 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other topics or questions? Otherwise, I can continue with the other questions.
Carry on.
Okay. So, Brian, I like this question from Brian Wallesby. BioWare has said that the stories of the Warden and the Hawk, that the stories of the Warden and Hawk have been told, but are there aspects of these two that you feel have not been told? Aspects about the Grey Warden and Hawk that you feel hasn't been told yet?
Well, it says that you feel need to be told.
Yes, that you feel need to be told.
Mm.
That's
In the
complicated.
Warden story, they didn't delve too much into their actual origins, like in the story overview.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say you're a city elf. What is the Warden's relationship with, Saurus and
Mm-hmm.
his I think her name is Shiani or Shiami,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that they helped to keep them from going into Ostagar or to the noble house that the human origin is from. I forget. Highever. Because you were able to keep them from moving to Highever or Ostagar.
I think I know a lot of people are aware that I wouldn't mind seeing Saurus again. Especially now that my Inquisitor is not related to him.
Yes.
Stop the incest.
Yes. Carver's not Carver's not related to the Inquisitor either, so there's that too.
So I feel there's stuff in their background that's been kind of glossed over, but not really too much expansion on that.
Efren or Mecha?
I think it's complicated because since they are the character, the player character, they can't really go deep in them because we are the ones that decide how they are. So for me, having I think it's going to be complicated to find Hawk and the Warden in this game because maybe I don't agree with that and it gets awkward.
How about you, Mecha?
Well, more interference, thank you. By the looks of it, it's more on the aftermath of the events after Witchhunt and of course after Dragon Age 2, which are mostly my concern. Because, yeah, the stories have been told, but not after. Because you don't know whether or not they lived happily ever after.
I think the most obvious story that needs to be told is the whole reason why Cassandra went to see Varric in the first place in Dragon Age 2 is that not only has Hawk disappeared mysteriously, the Warden has also disappeared mysteriously, according to Leliana. So the question is, why did they disappear? We know that Hawk is going to reappear in this game, and I'm assuming you're going to be able to somehow learn from him where he or she has been this entire time. And going along with the lines of not necessarily your Warden directly, but the Grey Wardens in general, which I guess is sort of related indirectly, is why were the Grey Wardens in Kirkwall in Act 2 during the Qunari Rebellion?
Yeah.
Something that was so important that it was a higher priority than rescuing the people of Kirkwall from what was going on.
Yeah, the town that was burning around, literally around them.
Yeah, and they were like, I'm sorry, we're in another special mission. So I'm like, hopefully, maybe from Blackwall, we might find out something about that.
And how different is the story between the Warden going with Morrigan and the Warden not going with Morrigan?
Yes.
Into the mirror.
Yes, that's true. I would love to see that as well.
Yeah.
I would also love to see the difference between having the Grey Wardens, having your Warden stay with the Grey Wardens. Does Blackwall ever meet your Grey Warden? Does he ever meet Alistair if Alistair stayed with the Grey Wardens, or Loghain if Loghain's in the Grey Wardens? It would be nice if Blackwall was able to talk about those characters if they remained in the Order.
Yeah, that's very true.
Or Carver as well.
Carver, and I'm pretty sure Loghain would make quite an impression in the Wardens.
Yes. Very good question, Brian. I'm Hello of Games. We just have about 10 minutes left, roughly. asking, might have already been asked, but what kind of personality will your Inquisitor have? Any major views they want to reveal, like how they feel about magic or the Maker, for instance? Do you guys have decision of the personality of your character and major views of your Inquisitor?
I have.
I cannot reveal Poronga's personality until my live stream.
Very well. Efren, go ahead.
Okay. Knowing that the Elven Mage is supposed to be a keeper in training, I think my Inquisitor is going to have had some how do you say it? Like directing experience. I mean, he's used to knowing what to do with people and stuff. So I think I'm going to try to be very diplomatic. About magic, I'm also going to be all about throw magic and mage's liberties.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to believe in the Maker. It's going to be wild spirits and stuff. I don't know if I'm leaving anything behind.
I always take a few characters and put them in a melting pot and add in certain things to make them. Mm-hmm. So for my Inquisitor, I've got Irileth from Skyrim melted with Captain Maelstrom from the Dragon Age Inquisition RPG. Just melting those together and adding in a dash of aggressive.
Okay. Go ahead, Mecha.
Like, just play with that in your mind for a little bit.
Yes. Oh, I think Mecha already answered the question.
Yeah, I did.
For me, I think my Inquisitor's personality is going to be a work in progress as I go through the origin story, at least, because Bioware mentioned that there is going to be a sense of an origin story for your character where you get to define a lot of those questions about their views and about their personality. And I don't know up to what extent that's going to be, so I can come into the game having a concept and then realizing that within the limitations of the game I can't actually do that concept. So I'm going to have to feel my way around. In general, I would like to make my character a little bit more likable than my Hawk, because I purposely made, so as I had explained in my LP, Angelus was based mostly around my personality and what kind of decisions. Not all of them. I didn't choose all of the questions like I would choose them in real life, but generally how I would choose them. And then I made my Hawk different, purposely different in personality, and his personality bothered a lot of my viewers. And I mean, I'm not going to apologize for that because I wanted to make sure that Clive was a completely different character from my Warden, and I thought it'd be interesting if you were to put my Warden and Clive together in one place. It would be interesting if they did butt heads, if they did disagree with things.
Or but anything else.
Or but anything. I don't know about that. But for my Inquisitor, I'm going to probably go back towards things that would be more like the way I choose things, because that's how I naturally play the game when I play a game for the very first time, is tend to choose the choices that I would make. But I will make it a point to still make him different from both my Hawk and my Warden, and also try to, I don't know, just try to make the experiences unique and try to make choices that I think would be more interesting storytelling. So, okay, I think we have time for at least one or two more questions. So, trying to pick a good one. Here's a question from Brian Wallaceby. I think we kind of answered this, but if any of you guys have anything more to provide. Brian's question is, are there any backstory or plot of the Dragon Age universe that you feel BioWare should cover or expand on? Kind of answered this already, but is there anything else that you guys think need to be said?
Flemeth, of course, in both ways, but that's an obvious one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've mostly answered that one earlier. I can't think of anything else.
Okay. All right. So that's I guess that question has been answered. So are there any other last minute topics or questions that you guys want to throw out there before we wrap things up, before we close? Anything else? Pretty
Not
much.
for me.
Are all,
We could talk about the limited nature of phylacteries. Like, how do they justify phylacteries, the Templars and the Chantry?
sure. Go ahead.
Because that's the only exception to blood magic they have, because it is blood magic.
Yeah. That actually was, by the way, the topic of choice that Spells had sent to me in order to get onto this podcast, was about phylacteries. So, if you allow me to, I might put a link on that down below, so I can try to do that. But do you guys have thoughts about phylacteries and how they work in the Dragon Age universe, which is probably something that would come up in Inquisition because of the whole Mage Templar conflict?
Because how they really work is it's just a compass that points to where the blood came from. It doesn't tell you what's in the way or where they are exactly. It just points you in one lateral direction.
I never thought about it, actually.
Yeah, like, for example, say if a mage got away and they had to first go to the Denerim Castle to get the phylactery, because they tell you in the mage circle, once you become a mage, they send your phylactery to Denerim.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have it on hand. And say you just go into a cave and you lay a trap, they don't know that there's a trap in there, they just know you're in a cave. So how effective are they really?
Probably, I would think they're not super effective just because they had a Pokemon quote. I don't think they're super effective because there's definitely a lot of apostates. I mean, Anders, granted, he's a smart enough guy, but he's been able to keep away from the Templars relatively easily. I mean, then, of course, there's someone like Clive who is waving blood magic around in front of Colin, and Colin's like, I don't see any of this. Don't see any of this. So...
And, you know, and also the Templars have to work up the motivation to go hunting for you in the first place.
True. Yeah.
And then if you got powers like Morrigan, you can just turn into a bird.
Yeah, and at that point, I don't know if they can catch you all that easily, especially if your movements are sporadic enough. So...
We'll just stay flying over them, and the compass would be like, where is he?
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it definitely seems like a very limited technique, but it's probably the only one that they currently have that is not quote unquote blood magic.
Yeah, not blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but do mages know that how they work exactly? Because maybe it's just a psychological.
Yeah,
feeling.
because the mages have to give their blood to be put in the phylactery.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they give the blood, but I wonder if all mages know how limited it is for finding them. Because they know they have their blood and they can find them, but know how, or maybe it's just, we can find you, don't run away, please.
just kind of bargaining on suspension of disbelief. Just hoping they don't try it.
All right, I have one more question, a fun question to ask all three of you. So, given all of the companions and advisors, we're going to put all the companions and advisors together. We're going to play Kiss Kill Marry. And this is for not your Inquisitor, this is you personally. You as a person. Which of those people, there's a lot to choose from, which of those people do you need to choose to kill? Which you're going to choose to kiss, and which one are you going to choose to marry? And again, kiss can mean other stuff beyond kissing, if you catch my drift. So, there's a lot to choose from. If you want, I can try to go first, although I think I need to think about it a little bit longer.
I think I already know my kill and my marry, but I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
start with
Okay.
those.
Alright, my kill would definitely be Fenris, because he just pisses me off to no
Well,
end.
let's keep it within Inquisition. Let's
Oh,
keep it
keep it
within.
within Inquisition. Okay, all right, that changes things a little bit. But my Mary would definitely be Liliana. I like fiery redheads, and the fact that she's the left hand of the divine, you know.
Okay.
So, Kiss would probably be Vivian.
Vivian's very pretty, very sexy.
Yeah, and kill. I with kill.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm trying to figure out who to kill, who I particularly don't care much for.
You can think about it. Does anyone else? We can come back to you. Do any of the other two have ideas of at least one or two of those categories?
I think I would kill the advisor that is new to this game because she's the one
Josephine?
that because she's
Josephine?
the one that I care less about in the moment.
Okay. I believe
So-
she's Antivan. I believe. I think she is. Oh, well. Anyway, go ahead.
But and I don't know who to marry.
Okay.
I have a few possible choices to kiss,
Okay.
and I can't really decide on one.
All right. Well, we'll come back to you because you need to pick one.
Yeah.
Mecha, do you have any thoughts so far?
Marry Morrigan,
Morrigan. Mm-hmm.
kill Cassandra.
Kill Cassandra. Okay.
And how much I hate her because she's such a fucking bitch. And kiss Alistair.
Well, Alistair is not one of the Inquisition companions or advisors, so can you pick another one? Can you?
Has to be Colin then.
Colin. Okay.
Oh, you go there. Go ahead, scream if you want. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think I would marry Sarah because she just looks like so
Okay.
fun around.
Okay.
And I would have to ride the bull.
Ride the bull.
I got this in one of your heads now.
Efron, you seem very convinced that you're not going to break. Very convinced.
Well,
I feel like if I were to try to ride the bull, I feel like I would break. So that doesn't mean I wouldn't do it. But
I'm sure there's a magic spell for that.
that part. I'm sort of going back and forth. As far as marrying, I'm going back and forth between Cullen and Varric because I think that Varric has a better personality than Cullen does. But I definitely am a lot more physically attracted with Cullen, so I feel like the chemistry is actually there with Cullen, although the chest hair is also pretty alluring as well. So I'll go back to that. Killing, honestly, I really like all the characters, and I like this character too, but I think this is the character that I am fond of the least, and that's Cassandra. So, sorry, Reclusiarch.
I figured out my kill.
So there's, I would kill Cassandra. I guess I could be convinced to kill Blackwall just because I don't think he's gonna live very long anyway, but I don't want to make that the reason why I would kill him. As far as kissing and marrying, my knee-jerk reaction, assuming Cullen is going to be more like the Cullen that I knew in the origin story of Origins, if there's traces of him like that coming back from the mage origin story of Cullen, I would marry Cullen and kiss Varric. Otherwise, I would marry Varric and kiss Cullen.
Alright, well, I think I figured out mine. I would marry Liliana, kiss Vivian, and if I can't help him in any way, I would have to kill Cole. It would be a mercy killing.
Oh.
He's been through too much crap already. Like, I'm sorry, but if I can help him, I would kill Solus or Solas.
Oh, Solus. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all the time we've got, folks. So, thank you, you three. I apologize to Lies. Lies, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry that it didn't work out. I was hoping that you'd be able to come back and join us, but definitely appreciated your time. So I'm sorry that you weren't able to. But maybe we can do something at some point later. We'll see. Thank you guys again for joining me, the three of you on the panels. I hope you had a good time, and hopefully that you guys will be able to appreciate the game more when it releases. Thank you guys out there for watching and for joining us. Yeah, I hope you guys all enjoy the game and try not to lock yourselves in your room for too long when the game releases.
Well, I've got Mockingjay to go watch.
That's true. I've got Mockingjay to watch too. Try to get some sun. Maybe try not
I
to.
don't have to worry about that. I can't tan.
Not either. I just burn.
Try to find some time to at least bathe every 3 days, at least maybe.
No promise.
Even if you're not going to interact with other people, it's still probably a good idea. But anyway, so thank you again, and until next time, everybody, love yourselves, love each other.
Durant.